Hi, everybody. Welcome to episode number 6 of Deep Conversations. Tonight we have special guests Bruce Beveridge and Steve Hall. They should be joining us here in just a second. Be just a delay while everybody's joining us. Hi, Bruce. How are you?
Okay.
Good.
Okay.
We lost Steve.
That's not a good thing. Come back.
Hold on. Let me message him. All right. Anyway, Steve should be joining us back in just a second. I resent the link to him, but we've got Bruce here. Just in case you all don't know who Bruce Beveridge is, he's the co-author of quite a few well-known Titanic books, including Titanic, the Ship Magnificent, Volume 1 and Volume 2, Olympic and Titanic, The Truth Behind the Conspiracy. And then you may recognize this new book, RMS Titanic and 50 Objects, that just recently was released. We're looking forward to talking to him and Steve this evening. If Steve comes back, hopefully he will. I don't know what happened. But anyway.
Hopefully he comes back soon. I don't know.
I know, we were just talking to him. And then also Titanic in Photographs. They co-authored that book as well, which is just fantastic. They've had many joint projects together and many solo projects. They're just both treasures of the Titanic community. So it's just wonderful to have them with us.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much for joining us. I don't know what happened to Steve. There he is. Okay. He should be coming back here in just a second, hopefully.
I don't know why he had to mess with the computer. He was all set to go, and then all of a sudden.
Oh, it's okay. Technology, it happens. One time I lost Zoom completely. Like, it was just gone, like off my screen. And like, I know it's there. It's somewhere. I don't know what happened to it. It's there. I just like resend myself the link to get back in. It was weird. It just happens sometimes. He's coming.
I see his little icon, yes.
We're waiting for Steve. But anyway, it's a pleasure to have you both joining us this evening. So this is the first episode of Deep Conversations in quite a while. Hopefully it'll be the first of many to come. I'd like to, anyone out there in the Titanic community, authors, historians, explorers, if any of you would like to join me in a conversation, just let me know and I'll be happy to have you on and talk about anything Titanic, books, expeditions, artwork, anything at all. It would be my pleasure. Steve, are you there? All you have to do is click on your video icon and your mic icon, and we should have you back. Although the cat icon is awfully cute.
I wonder what he did. He must have changed his shirt again or something.
I don't know. He was looking really sharp, though. I don't know. He didn't need to change again. Anyway, Bruce, do you want to tell us a little bit about how you and Steve met?
Well, Steve and I met on the Titanic Modeling, Research and Modeling Association message board. You know, all of the authors that have been involved with their co-authors and so forth all came from that message board. And, you know, I know I was one of the ones that was there from the beginning before we created this Titanic Research and Modeling Association. Originally, it wasn't that. It was just a website created by Sean Winterberg. This poor kid, he had this model, And he had a model and he wanted to make it as accurate as possible. So he creates this website and he found so many other people out there that wanted to also get their model as accurate as possible. And so I started taking part in this message board, and then Steve came along and he used to post on there too. There was a couple of guys, I don't remember all their names anymore, but that's how we met. And eventually Steve had this conspiracy manuscript or something to this effect. I remember he wrote me privately, and we went back and forth over some of these conspiracy ideas, some of this craziness, And he said, I have this manuscript that is unfinished. Would you be interested in going through it and checking it for accuracy and so forth? And then let's see if we can make a book out of it. So he sent it to me. It was a mess. And I was a cop. I used to be a police officer in a suburb outside of Chicago. And I actually sat in the squad car and read this thing. And I did most of the work on it in this in the alerts computer in the squad car. It would bring chapters to work on a floppy disk, believe it or not, and plug it into this little old Windows 98 laptop or whatever they had in there, and I would sit and hide in the weeds somewhere, and because I was a police sergeant at the time, and I would work on this book. But that's kind of how we met, was on this message board. And Steve was always great at finding these rare photographs. I remember he told me that he had a large photograph collection. So that was always his thing. We find a picture of this thing, and he throw me, I get this email with these strange photographs I've never seen before. Where'd you get that at? I don't bother asking him, whatever. But that's how it all started. And we took it was Olympic and Titanic, The Truth Behind the Conspiracy, which was written in response to the Robin Gardner book, Titanic, the Ship That Never Sank. So some of those points that are in that book, there's the original one. Some of the points in there are directly pointing at Robin Gardner. Rest in peace. I hear he's passed away some time ago. And then we self-published it. I went to this, whatever it was called, Infinity Publishing. And I never really tried to sell it. We just self-published it. And I remember I took that with me to England for the British Titanic Society convention, the first year that I went there in 2000, I think it was. And they gave me a table, and I brought a case of them. And because of the exchange rate, I sold every one of the books, and the sales from those books paid for my whole trip. Did I get that right, Steve? I see you're there.
Yeah, I don't know. Is it working? Is it working?
Yes, it works great.
Wonderful.
Ah, excellent.
Yay.
I was. It just went off, and I don't know why. Okay, so all right, that's good. Thank you. Now I can hear. I can't see
The
myself.
legendary Steve Hall, everyone. Bruce.
Hello, everyone. Morning, afternoon, evening, wherever you are.
So
I've
about
never
what
met
year was
Steve
it?
in person. We never met each other in person, only through the internet.
So what year was that you guys kind of met on the message boards?
Yes.
Early 2000s, like 20 some years ago.
Well, I don't know. I think it was probably, I don't know, 1996.
Oh wow.
No, it was after the camera movie came out in '97, because that's when I got involved.
Yeah, that'd be about right, because at that time that you were talking about the photos, and as I was selling the photos from the Ulster Folk and Transport Museum, I was selling the photos online, and I think that you would sort of sent me a message and asked me about a certain photo or something, which later on I found out what it was anyway.
That's right.
And then we were on some message board or something, and then I started winding everyone up about the switch theory. And I have to admit, I was I was just baiting everyone. I was just winding everyone up, thinking, yeah, they must have done it, and this is how they did it, and I was thinking I was just looking for reactions or something, and then there was a reaction from you and many others, and then I was getting it in the neck, And I thought, well, I can't go forward with this. I better get on board with the rest of the boys here and take it serious. So I think that's where it started. I remember I had a look maybe quite a few years ago, and the original posts that we had between me and Bruce are still there online. So a long time ago. I can't
Yeah, I
see the
recall that
camera.
now.
Can't see the camera. I don't know what it looks like for me. I'm frightened to even say anything now because I won't see anything here. It's got a record button, then it's got.
But I do
music.
remember that original manuscript was quite the mess. And there was a lot of stuff in there that was just. It
was awful.
It's fixed it, you know.
No, it was awful. I mean, I'd never. No, it was awful. I never written anything in my life, and I just sat there, and here I am. I'm just sort of typing things out, and I'm trying to think, well, hang on a sec, they switched the ship. I'm trying to convince people they did it, and just try and pull everything here together. And then when I sent it to you, you must have looked at it and threw your hands up and said, you know, come on. And of course, yeah, and you're better at writing than I am. That's probably
Well,
why that's probably why your name's first all the time, I suppose.
And then we threw in a chapter where we actually created a situation that we really had to push the envelope. You know, if there was possible that there was a switch, how could it have been done? And we had to budget a lot of things. And people that don't read that whole book, and I still get contacted from producers, you know, wanting me to be pro switch. And I've said to them, have you read the whole book? Have you read the introduction? Because it's all in there, because they don't read the whole thing. So we come up with this chapter where we actually did come up with the phony switch thing. And in the end, there's no way you can keep 15,000 Irishmen quiet about a secret. That's one of them, I think.
So we have quite a few viewers right now. People are making comments and everything. I think everybody's excited that you guys are here. There's an interesting comment though. It says, this is from Cody Reinhardt. It says, in today's world, I'm surprised there's not a movie about the conspiracy. There's quite a few documentaries about it, but no, there's no movie about it. It would be totally fiction though. But we've got Michael Standard watching, Mike White, Dan Cherry, Terry Bay, Alex McLaughlin. Alex is from New Zealand. Let's see, we've got Bill Sauter watching, Amber Fricky watching. Those are the ones that I know of that are commenting. Everybody's really happy to see you guys.
Thank you, everyone, for coming in. Like, I suppose the conversation has to start someplace, and it seems to have its origin back to the switch theory.
Mm-hmm.
And I really, if I have to think about it, and I'm going back to 1995, 96, all the information that we have today about Titanic was not readily available in 1995 or 96. So therefore, then some guy comes along and he says they switched the ships. So you think, well, that's rather interesting. You know, could it have been done? And it was at that point when I was doing the photos, and I thought, well, yeah, they do look much the same, don't they? And sort of try and put everything together and try and work out what's going on and everything. And I found all the things that I thought I could find, and then I passed them on to the author of the original book. And it was at that point that I realized they haven't done it. No, there was too many red flags. There's no way they haven't switched it. But I have to say that if that book had been written, say around about 1980, you would have been struggling for someone to say there's no case for them not switching the ship, to be honest. But without all the information we've got today, you could have had a very strong case. And when me and Bruce done that first book, it was good cop, bad cop. And I took it from the point of view that I'm going to say, yes, they did it. And Bruce is going to say, no, they didn't do it. And I thought that was the only way that we could write this book. And I think sometimes that in the writing, I think for myself, it was a little bit stretched, because you sort of started to go out a little bit, and Bruce pulled it all back. And I think as Bruce said, you've got to read the whole book, and then when you sort of get to the end, you think to yourself, yeah, I get it. They didn't do it, so.
Good way of putting it. Yes, it is. We threw
You
in those
know.
extra chapters in the end just for the eye candy, or all the overdoing it with all the photographs and the circles and the arrows, pointing out the differences in the two ships. You know,
Yeah, that
it's
was,
just
yeah.
kind of.
Well, that was you doing all that, Bruce, because you knew more about it than what I do. I could possibly have known at the time because you were doing modelling and all that type of stuff. So I think I was learning as I went along with it too. So I just thought it was interesting that I got to meet so many people through the Titanic Modelling Association that are still friends today. And I just think today, well, you know, who the guys like Scott Andrews, these are a lot of people. I know you're saying Dan was Cherry's there, and all these guys knew me from there. And I just got to meet all these guys and talk with them. And it was at that point I said to myself, you know, Steve, you can't talk about the conspiracy. It's going absolutely nowhere. Get on board with it. Let's get serious. Let's start talking with everyone who knows what they're talking about. And from there, I went forward with it. And that's how me and Bruce kicked off. So,
Yeah. That's it.
Go ahead.
No, I was going to say you put it very well. I couldn't agree more. Good way of putting it, Steve.
yeah, no, it's really how it went down. And, you know, if we go back to let's say go back to 1997. So therefore, you know, I'm sitting here in this room and it was exactly the same room. And I think at the time I was probably using Windows 98 and we're on the old message, and the old message boards, and you're sitting there and typing away and things like that. You really didn't get instant responses from people. So you could be rather sort of crude or say something that perhaps you shouldn't. And the reaction wasn't instantaneous, like it was like on Facebook. All of a sudden you get frown faces and you get things like that. And you felt that sometimes there was a fringe group out there and they're going, yeah, give it to them, Steve. Yeah, they switched it, you know. And so you kept going, but then all of a sudden you thought, oh, geez, I'm banging my head up against the wall. This is ridiculous. I'm batting on the wrong side here. I've got to go over to the good guys. Yeah. And that was the start. That was the start of moving on with Bruce. And then, okay, then so Steve Hall. Okay, so, you know, Steve Hall and these great books, and he's done this and done all that, you know. But there was a point there that he was a little bit on the dark side. And the wind could have blown either way, and I could have been, I would have been nowhere if I went for the switch theory, would I? So.
You know, it's funny. I work at a high school. I think I've mentioned that before. And a lot of the kids, they know me as like the Titanic teacher. I've given a lot of like presentations and classes in April about the Titanic. And just recently, I started a shipwreck club. You know, kids of any grade level can join. I'm in the high school, and you know, even if they don't know anything about Titanic, they're like, "Oh, I heard they switched the two ships, and like the wrong ship is at the bottom of the ocean." And I'm like,
yeah.
No. Listen, let me just explain this to you. It's at the bottom of the ocean, and the only reason it sank is because it hit an iceberg. That's it. End of the discussion. It hit an iceberg, it sank, and Titanic is at the bottom of the ocean.
Yeah, that's it.
I get that from my son. He sent me a messenger thing when he did. Have you seen this? The switch theory. I said, yeah, I wrote a book about it. Maybe you
Like
don't
2
know
books
that.
about it.
Well, really, yeah. And you know what I find it's rather sort of, well, it's rather awful when I think back at, because, you know, back in the Riddle of the Titanic, which was released in 95 or something, and me and Christine, my wife, who I can hear out in the kitchen, it was coming up to Christmas, and we went to the bookshop, and there was a book there called The Riddle of the Titanic. And I thought, well, good, I'll read that. And then whenever she wasn't home, I'd go up and get the book out of the cupboard, and I was reading it and whatever, you know. So, and I thought it was absolutely fascinating, but it seems to have grown legs way out of proportion of where it should be. It's too many people have jumped onto it. All of these things, white paint, and it's got to be the Olympic, and And I think, Bruce, we had discussed about the stroke arrangement, which was on the port side around the anchor, and everything else went with it, and it really fell apart very quickly. You know.
So back to the live feed, to the comment section. Michael Standard says, actually, there was a movie that was had attempted to be made, or wait a minute, actually, movie has been attempted. I don't know if it went anywhere because even the screen caps were asinine. Dan Terry said, it's good to see you both, Steve and Bruce. Let's see, Michael says the same hull and machinery, but very different on the inside. Let's see, Terry Bay says the superstructures have differences. Dan Cherry said that he gets that too with the younger kids. They all believe in the conspiracies. And not to mention that they think that it's new. I'm like, no, it's been around forever, y'all. No, just no. Tony Strublick says that absolutely amazes him that people believe the conspiracy and doesn't seem to go away. That's true. And Tony, I would like to mention, is one of my other favorite artists. We were all talking, Tony, about artwork earlier. I have some of Tony's artwork in my house too. Absolutely fantastic. Tony is just an amazing artist. If y'all haven't ever heard of him, go check Tony Strublick's artwork out. He is an amazing maritime artist. Cody Reinhardt says the blueprints of Titanic's bridge were different than the Olympic. Sure. All right, so because we have lots of other things to talk about other than switch theories.
But before we go on,
okay.
Before we go on, and just let's finish it off with the switch theory. You know, there's a lot of people, and they're saying, you know, it couldn't be done, and it couldn't be done, and it couldn't be done, it couldn't be done, it couldn't be done, whatever it was. But when you turn around and you have two people who know the Olympic and the Titanic, like me and Bruce, you know, you think to yourself, in the end, could it have been done? And I think really, if you look at it, the only reason you couldn't have got away with it, you couldn't have made the changes in the time it said, but you just couldn't keep 10,000 Irishmen quiet.
That is very true. And two,
Yeah, just
with the big piece, you know, those were the portholes were specific to Titanic. So just the big piece, that was just evidence right there, even further the fact that it's Titanic down there, not Olympic. So, you know, I don't know. But y'all have this book, go get it. It's great.
Well, disappointing, I suppose, because it would have been great. Because I mean, if they had switched them, absolutely, what a fantastic thing! I suppose it would have been great conspiracies, get everything and do this and do that. But in the end, they didn't do it, and it's Titanic down there 100%. We all know that, and it's just got out of hand over the years. And although me and Bruce have wrote the book and done 2 books on it, saying, well, it's, you know, here it is, they didn't do it for this reason. People don't pick the book up and they don't read it. And people just kept on jumping on it, and it's got absolutely out of hand. So, excuse me, I think if they want to think they switched it, well, let them think what they want, because I can't convince them otherwise.
Dan Cherry said he's been to Belfast, and if you give a man a pint, he'll talk your ear off. I think, well,
that's quite possible, you know. You know, having family.
I don't think they could have kept quiet.
Maybe too much Irish whiskey, perhaps. You know, it sounds really good anyway, though.
So probably a lot of people don't realize, or you may, because Steve has lovely Australian accent, and Bruce lives on the East Coast of the United States. So I don't know if y'all realize the astronomical geographic distance. That's like about 11,000 miles.
It's a long way.
Yeah.
Steve has the Australian accent, which is lovely, and I have the Chicago accent, which is also lovely and hard to understand because I mumble a lot. But it's
no, Bruce, you have a good accent. I think it's really good, and I don't hear my own accent. And I think I'd said to Joanna before there, where I grew up in Australia, my wife Christine grew up in exactly the same area, and she talks exactly like me. So I don't know any different. And the only time that I think anyone ever picked me up, I was on the plane coming back from Finland in Helsinki, because I was over there working with Clive. And I was sitting on the plane, and somebody said to me, they looked at me and they said, "Oh, you and Aussie or something like that, or something about." And I said, "Yeah, that's me." I said, "Is it that obvious?" He said, "Mate, it's so bloody obvious." He said, "It's not funny." He said, "You're like that other bloody blokes building the Titanic, ain't you?" And I said, "Yeah." I said, "I sort of know that guy, sort of whatever." So, but we have a word about that later on because there's something funny that I can tell you about that actually. So, anyway, more quick, go.
My point was, you guys live
That's
not
all right.
very close to each other, and you have co-written quite a few books. You know, the Ship Magnificent books. There are like 5 authors, and Titanic and Photographs. There are, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4. There are at least 4, 5 authors.
Yeah.
How does that work? Because some of these books were like before social media, just in the dying age of social media. You know, obviously Zoom is kind of new to you guys. How did that work for y'all? How do you co-write these books, you know, so well, and you've written so many together? How did that work for y'all? What does it look like writing books together like this?
I think Bruce should ask that because Bruce is Titanic Ship Magnificent. It's got Bruce Beveridge written all over it. Whose name's biggest on the cover? Bruce Beveridge. Who knows more about it than the others? Bruce Beveridge. So you talk about it, Bruce.
Well, that book started off as just my field notes. I was, would go out and I would give talks in the local libraries and all that. And I have a horrible memory. So I wanted to just write notes. I had all this reference material, all photocopies of pages out of the Electrician and maybe another photocopies out of the Shipbuilder, all these old, original publications. So what I did is I would say, okay, if you look at, let's say the Electrician, you might have something that says in there about the generators, and there'll be different information from what the next publication says. So what I was doing is I was just merging these together for notes so that I could stand in front of a group and study them before I gave my talks. Well, this started to grow because I had a job after 9/11. I was a police officer. I got injured in a line of duty, and my career was over in the beginning of 2001. And what are all washed up cops for the most part, either carry on to be security guards, or whatever it may be. Well, I ended up being a security guard. They were hiring anybody that could carry a gun after 9/11. I got put down at the Chicago Mercantile Exchange on the 2nd floor on an afternoon shift. There was nobody in the building, but I had to watch the door that went into the interstitial. This is the server room below the trading floors, to make sure nobody snuck into it and destroyed anything. I was there for 5 years. So I had time. And I just started writing about, I'm like a jack of all trades, but I'm not a master of anything specifically, except for the exterior appearance of the ship. So I reached out to my friends. Scott Andrews, I think, is arguably the best when it comes to those engines. Bill, I'm sorry, but Scott's good too. I'll let both of you. But Scott is the one I knew at the time. And so I wrote each one of those chapters. I wrote all the individual deck by deck. I wrote, and I went to the library and I got original reference material. I only wanted the stuff from the period. I don't want anything that's been rewritten. I always go to the original sources. I want the original newspapers. If it doesn't smell like mildew, I don't want it. And I did all this, but I said, okay, I'm going to just use as an example, the engine chapter. So I get a hold of Scott, I email him, and we have talked on the phone for hours and hours and hours in the past, because he's relatively close to me compared to the other guys, of course. And I said, listen, I'm going to send you my chapter on the engine room. Would you look it over and tell me if it's wrong or if anything's wrong with it? And he wrote me back and he said, everything in your chapter is correct, but it's for the wrong size ship. And I went, because the reference material I could find at the time was mostly, Cunarder stuff. So to fill in the gaps from what I had on the Olympic and Titanic, which of course is your typical shipbuilder engineering, so forth and so on, I had to fill in those spaces. So I went to other original material. And of course, I found it's very easy to find things. The material was too old. I said, Scott, why don't you just write the whole chapter over again? He goes, okay, fine. He wrote that whole engine chapter, the propulsion chapter is 100% Scott Andrews. And then I did the deck by deck interior thing, and I sent it off to Daniel. I said, Daniel, you're the best I know on this. Can you add to it? Can you fix things? And he is the one that went in there and he completely redid it for me. I mean, there's a lot of my writing in there still, obviously. I mean, the painstakingly go through these auction catalogs and try to figure out, the sizes of these desks and all this stuff. Why? Why did I do that? Because I had the time to. And also I thought upon, I said, look at, here's somebody now going into this engineering library to get this old edition of, the shipbuilder or something. And I think, 100 years from now, somebody may want to know things about the Titanic. And I wanted to create a reference book. So yes, they were written as reference books. So you could go back and look it up. And there's information since then, of course, have been updated because of the different dives in Iraq and so forth and so on. But not a lot of it. A little bit, here and there, skylight perhaps. But then we go to Art Braunschweiger. Now he volunteered to edit that, and he did. He would go through these paragraphs and take my writing, and he would rework it in proper English and so forth, in the grammar. But Art, he had this love. His main interest was the navigational appliances, the signaling and so forth, and the flags and all this. I said, Art, why don't you just rewrite all that? And that's what he did. So basically everything that has to do with signaling and the compasses and all that is Art Braunschweiger. And that's how he went from being the editor to a co-author. And then of course, Steve read everything that I did, whether he knows about it or not. He's always got some comments. And of course, he was the one that found a lot of the photographs that we used in there, including the stuff from that one friend of yours that's been passed away now. I forget what his name was, Inglius, the guy from overseas. He's gone now. Rest in peace, But he put a letter. So that's how that came up. And everything's done through email, not done through phone calls. So I spent a lot of time writing emails. Australia, Steve, we got Daniel Plistorner writing him. David, I think Dan Cherry's contributed to that too, isn't he in there somewhere? David Cochran. Yeah. A lot of people that are listening to this right now.
David Cochran, West Australia. So many people, and when you looked at where we were at with it, because sometimes that when we were doing it, there were so many emails around that I thought, well, what's happening here? There's 10, 15 emails and everyone's saying this and we'll do this and we'll do that, whatever. And in the middle of all of that, we're sort of working through all the photos and doing all of those things, trying to get them in the order they're supposed to be. And some of the photos were very poor and getting it sorted out. All of a sudden, the whole thing just blows out to such a huge size that you're thinking to yourself, well, hang on a sec, what page is this going to be? Oh, this is 680. I mean, this is just blowing out of absolute proportion. We need to break it down. We need to get it, sort of like into 2 volumes or something.
And Art did that. Art did that. He was able to compress a lot of that. He was able to, as an editor, he was able to take it. He cut a lot out. There was more chapters that we go in that. There was a whole chapter on the uniforms. We completely dropped it.
And the other thing that I remember too with it, Bruce, and other people have made comments to me about it too. It is clear when you read Titanic, the Ship Magnificent, it's been written by multiple people. When one person writes a book, you can follow it all the way through and you say, how someone writes. When you look at Titanic, the Ship Magnificent, it's got 4 or 5 people, whatever it is. It's all different writing styles, but Art came together and made it all look like one group of people done it all, almost like in one sitting. So come together, absolutely fantastic. So very proud of the book.
Yeah, well, I tell you, it was such a logistic nightmare that, it took 5 years to write, but that wasn't all at one sitting. I gave up on it a number of times. Because I just couldn't handle it, but I went back, and then of course with Art kind of kept our nose to the fire. Certainly did. I know him and I got into a lot of email arguments because he'd say, you just can't come out and say this. You got to say why that is. And I'd say,
well,
shut
when
up.
you and I argued over certain things, with things, and there were times that I said things to you, and you got the hump, and that's okay, because I would simply say what I thought, and you would go, oh yeah, whatever. But really, in the end, it just come together, and and I just thought that after we'd done the first book, this would be absolutely lovely to turn around and do something so good. Because the Switch Theory book was, that's okay then. So you get your name on the book, that looks lovely, But to turn around and produce something like Titanic, the Ship Magnificent, which was going to be, absolutely fantastic, you just had to keep going. And Art was really behind us and with a big stick and saying, do this and do that. And all the guys were involved in it. Very proud of what we did, what we achieved in the end with it. So
as soon as we get done with that complete 2-volume thing, everybody's burnt out. And then there's Steve. Oh, what about our photo book? And I said, no.
Because, okay. So we're talking about the photo book because I had been selling the photo. That's it. That's a good book that way. One of the best-selling Titanic books of all time. But because when I started with all of that, it was the photos which drew me in because I was selling the photos for the Ulster Folk and Transport Museum. And I had a website and I was selling the photos and I thought, well, we'll do a book called Titanic Photographic Compendium. That's what I wanted to do. And I thought at the time, now hang on a sec, Bruce, we've just spent 4 years on this book here of yours. I'm sitting here, I've got 2 new scripts for my glasses, we're editing photos and we're doing all of this. Hey, what about my book? Yeah. So after that, we had Titanic and Photographs. And where do you go from Titanic and Photographs and Titanic the Ship Magnificent?
Just a few comments from the live feed. Dan Cherry says, I remember I was in the email frenzy, but if I'm a part of the final project, I was not in for the credit. Hats off to the main authors. Nigel Bryant, he's one of the admins of my group, RMS Titanic Reflections. He says Titanic and Photographs was beautiful. Terry Bay, love Titanic and Photographs, love it. Let's see, Tony Strublick says, I'm so happy I purchased Titanic Ship Magnificent, use it frequently to get details right for my drawings. Again, he's a wonderful maritime artist.
Lovely drawings.
He says it is the source to use for accuracy. Thank you for to all that created it. Terry Bay says, thank you, Stephen, Bruce, etc. for writing it. Terry Bay says, I promise to get a 2-volume book. I'm very happy to own Titanic the Ship Magnificent. It's literally one of my favorites. I use it all the time for reference. So it sounds like the writing process for a book has been complicated. A lot of emailing. It sounds like a complicated long distance process, but it works. We have these lovely books that you guys have written over the years. All of you, not just the 2 of you, but all of the authors that have come to all of these books that we have.
I think Joanna, that it's got to go right back to 1997 and interaction on the message boards at the time. And I just thought to myself at the time, wouldn't it be nice to have my name on a book? And that's what I thought. I thought, wouldn't that be really nice? Just, oh, there it is, and Steve Hall, and that'd be whatever. And of course we done that. And then you went on, and then was Titanic, the Ship Magnificent. And I don't know, maybe I was thinking we should turn into 2 volumes because I got my name on 3 books instead. And then it snowballed from there because I thought we had got ourselves a bit of a reputation as knowing what we were talking about with Titanic. And we didn't go to the wreck because, well, not to the wreck itself, but we didn't touch on that because we were doing the ship itself. Other people were doing it,
that was the
So
thing,
we just
yeah.
concentrated on photos and, you know,
There's so many people out there that do a wonderful job on the passengers. And that's all you really hear about, the passengers, and you hear the genealogy, but nobody had ever written about the ship itself.
yes.
And
And that
you
was like,
mentioned-
wait a minute, this is a piece of art in itself. Don't you
It is.
understand? Yeah.
It's amazing.
So that was the idea of a book about the ship itself, not about the people.
Well, I put together a little slideshow of some of your works. I would like to show that real quick, just in case our viewers are not aware of some of the things you've worked on. So I'd like to show that real quick, and I'll share my screen. It will be brief, it's not very long. Okay. Can y'all see this? Hold on, let me let my live feed catch up.
Oh,
Whoops. There we go. All right, so there's y'all. This is where it all began with Olympic and Titanic.
Yeah, that's where it began. That's where it started.
That was published in what, 2004?
Yes, and it was probably finished and written and completed by 2002, and took us 2 years to get it published, and we self-published it in the end. So, yeah.
In this, this Ship Magnificent, that was originally published in 2008, right? With volume, I mean, with the original release. And then we have Report to the Loss of SS Titanic. Both of you can read to that one. And that's got a whole host of people that contributed. Sam Halpern, Kathy Akers Jordan, George B., Bruce Beveridge, Mark Turnside, Tad Fitch, Dave, what is that, Gittens, Steve Hall, Lester Mitchum.
see, Sam didn't want to write that book, and we talked him into it. He was very prevalent on the message boards with his research, which I always enjoyed. The guy was very knowledgeable. Sam, you should write a book. I don't want to do it. I don't want to do it. I said, Sam, we'll help you. All those people said, Sam, we want you to write a book and we'll help you. So that's what they did. That's why there's all those names on there. You know, they all contributed to that. And now Sam has written other books. So, you know,
Now he's
right?
gone on done a lot of things, Bruce. He's one of the top guys in the field, and it's just looking at the book there on the left there, and which is a great book. And what might draw your eye to it is that the author's names there are alpha sorted. I'm not an alpha sorting author name sort of person, but that's okay then. But just to look at the cover there, and I think people might be interested to know this. The watch there is mine, which is on the table. That's mine. It's probably the third time that I took the photo, because the first time it didn't show, 220. It's Art's rigging plans. It's my old glasses, and the piece of steel at the top is off the Olympic. It was a strike removed after the Hawke collision. And the photo there is just a generic photo from Ulster Folk and Transport Museum. And the bifold marker, which is at the top of the photo there, which belonged to my great-grandfather. So it dated back to the same time of 1912. Now, I was just looking at turning around and producing a cover, and I thought, well, I'll do a cover. And I put the stuff on our kitchen table, and I stood on the table with a camera, and I took a photo of it, and I said, how does that look, Christine, my wife? She says, well, that sort of looks okay. We'll send it off to Amy Rigg at the History Press, and she liked it. And there it is. So I was on the kitchen table, and it took 10 minutes. So when I look at it, a lot of people like it, but when I look at it, I just look back at it and go, oh, yeah, okay then. So it's interesting.
I think it's a great photo, a great cover.
I've still got the
Olympic.
Still got the watch. I wind it up every day. So
That looks great.
Well,
I just have to reference quite a bit. That's one of my main reference books, that one right there.
It's a fantastic book. And the other one, which is the which ship sank, space, ? That was a photo that we got for Olympic and Titanic from Tyrrell, didn't we, Bruce?
Yes, I think so.
He bought that at an auction, and we thought we'd turn around and use that one. So, and the cover was originally going to be red. And I said, no, I don't want red. And we got Art in because Art had worked on Titanic, the ship Magnificent. We wanted him to edit it. So bang on, Art's name goes on there. And then I asked Mark Churnside to do the foreword for us.
And that's the republished version of the red one that started it all. That's the History Press's.
Well, that's right. But there's a lot of people don't know that you made a cover and it just had your face on the cover. Yeah, you remember that?
Yeah, right.
Oh, I still got it. Yeah,
So is that pretty much the same thing as this book?
It
It's
is.
almost exactly the same.
It's been
but
updated. Yes.
An updated version of this book?
New information put
That's
on it, and at the time it was coming up to the 100th anniversary, Joanna, and we offered it out to the History Press, and they thought, well, okay, we'll run on that, and so they went with it. And of course, there was Sam's book, and at the same time, Titanic in Photographs, and the limited edition Ship Magnificent came out at the same time, and we also worked on. With several other authors, a few of them which is appear on Sam's book covers, name of authors there. We've done a Titanic app, which kept us quite busy.
The limited edition Magnificent, that was the leather bound
That's it.
version, and that was it was signed by the authors. Is that correct? That's the
It was, yeah. What they did with it was they sent us I think how many copies was there, Bruce? I don't know, 100. They were doing 100.
I think it was 100.
So they sent 100. So they sent me first 100 of these little things to sign. So I thought, well, okay, I'll sign it first. Why they picked me first, I don't know. Maybe Amy thought we'll send it to Steve first. I don't know, really. So anyway, I got it. So it makes it hard. Here's all these spaces. So I'm signing it first. And I'm thinking, well, I signed 2 or 3 of them in the wrong place because I'm listed third there, and I've got to make sure I put it on third there and whatever it was. And so I signed them all off. Then I made about 4 or 5 mistakes. But I tell you what, there is one, because my name is Stephen with a PH. It's not Steve. My name's Stephen with a PH, so Stephen Hall. I signed one of them, Stephen Hall, and it went out, and somebody's got a limited edition copy with Stephen Hall written on it. So it's I don't know who's got it, but it's sort of a one-off. But from there, that I sent them down to Daniel. Daniel signed them, and then Daniel sent them over to, I think, Scott. Scott signed them. Then they went to Art, and then from Art they went to Bruce. Bruce sent them back, and then they were glued into the book. And that's how they went out. So, and I've got 2 copies of them. So I've got one for my daughter and one for my son. So when I go to wave the dodo, they can sort of think about it, whatever. So yeah, your dad sort of had something to do with it anyway.
nice.
That's it. So, anyway, that's just a little backstory.
That came out, the box set. I got an email, and I forget what her name was, but she says, I am Steve Forbes' personal secretary.
Oh, I remember that. I remember that.
Yes. She insisted it be signed. Actually, he got a hold of the publisher. And then Amy got a hold of me. And his daughter, Steve Forbes' daughter, wanted us all to sign it. So that box set went around the world so it could be signed by all the authors, and it got sent to Steve Forbes for his daughter.
That's right.
They got started.
That's right. One of the richest guys in the world, and it was the birthday present for his daughter, who loved absolutely Titanic. And I included a signed photo that I had from the Ulster Folk and Transport Museum. And I said this photo was we used in the book. So we sent it off. Yeah, I remember that.
Wow.
There you go.
Okay then.
How's that?
In 2012, we had Titanic in Photographs.
Yeah.
That you all did with several other authors. Daniel Clistorner. I am so horrible at pronouncing Clistorner. And Art Braunsch. Thank you. And Scott Andrews. And then you had the forward by Ken Marshall. And this is Really one of my favorite books. It's one of the must-haves by any for any Titanic enthusiast, I guess. Anyone
Yeah,
who loves Titanic. It's just,
it's a great book, isn't it?
yes,
That's
it is quite
Daniel's baby. That one was Daniel's baby. That was
Yeah.
That was the idea was Steve. We had that idea along. We decided, let's Daniel. I said, you want to write this one? We're going to give it to you. It's our idea. You do it. He wrote it. He went over to the UK and he dug around in those archives for those images, some of which I don't think were printed before that. Some of them weren't. And you got the dates off the back, and it's a wonderful book. When I got it, I wrote a small part of it, but it was mostly Daniel,
It's just a lovely, lovely book. It's just one of my favorites. It always will be. It has a special place on my shelf. I look at it a lot. It was a gift from a dear friend, and I love this book.
I think what you have to do with it, Joanna, is that the covers of the book, they tell the tale. Apart from the simple fact that I've done nearly all the covers for all the books. But I'm a strong believer in that if you wrote most of it, your name goes first. And there we have Titanic in photographs. So you've got Daniel, and then you've got Steve, and then you've got, I can't read it because my glasses are not very good. And then it was Daniel's idea that he asked Ken Marshall to do the foreword for us, which he lovely agreed to do it for us, which was fantastic. And it was quite right because he is a photo historian. There's a name for it, I can't remember. A visual historian.
Mm-hmm.
And Ken's a really lovely guy, and I was really privileged that he was done it for us. And I really think that the book's been so successful because his name's on the cover.
Oh,
I think that's value added to the book substantially, to be honest with you.
I don't know. I mean, Ken Marshall is fantastic, but the truth of the matter is you guys just put together a fantastic book. You were asking me which one was my favorite photo. This is my.
Well, I asked earlier on, and I said,
This is
there's a
my
lot of photos. I don't know. Dan Cherry is listening, good friend of mine, over just a very, very long time. And we talk about photos reasonably often enough, how many, where we at. And so we put all the photos in there and everything. And I said to you, which a lot of people ask, what's your favorite Titanic photo? So we've got a lot of people listening. I don't know how many people are listening in, how many people are watching or anonymous or whatever, but everyone has a favorite photo. And you like the one where it's leaving at Southampton. So
Yes, that is my favorite.
and I think, as I had said before there, I think that's Benjamin Steele sitting on the bollard at the end, White Star Line superintendent. So it's a lovely photo. I like that one too. Do I have a favourite photo, really? I like the one in the dry dock where you can see Titanic in the dry dock, and the photo was taken from the Olympic, which would have been at the outfitting wharf. I like that one, really.
That's a good one. Bruce, do you have
There's one photo. There's one photo. If you want to go, I'm not going to tell you guys where it is. There is a photo of Titanic during the construction period, and you can see a cat. There's a cat on the ship.
Oh, there's a cat on the ship. Are you sure?
There is.
Jenny.
I thought that was just a
that's
legend.
not true. No, there's no Jenny, and there's no cats watching it. I think when we done the Titanic act, and we had some little fast facts or something, and somebody saying that there was a cat on there that took all its kittens off, and it came down at Southampton, and then a couple of the workers there said, "Oh, well, if the cat's going, there's something wrong. I'm not going on this boat." So maybe a wise move.
I have a cat. I named her Violet.
Yeah. Well, cats seem to know things, don't they?
Oh, me. Okay. So moving on. So we have the lovely RMS Titanic coloring book by Steve Hall and Bruce Beveridge, drawings by Lucy Hester.
Yeah.
If you have this book, you should get it. It's still available in the secondary market, y'all. Yes.
That is the only book that I contributed to that I've ever seen in a bookstore is that one.
Yeah.
In England, I saw it in an English bookstore. And I didn't, that was something that you did with Steve, with the publisher, that you get a hold of me and they said, here, I just want you to check the captions on it. That's all I did with it. I didn't put a lot into it. The more I did with Steve.
I got an email from Amy at the History Press. Amy Reed, she signs everyone up, so a lovely girl. And said, we want to do a colouring in book. Do you want to do it? I said, yeah, I'll have a piece of it. Get my name on another book. Sounds a good idea. As long I said, I can't draw. I said, I can't even draw a cat. And she said, no, we'll get, what's the name? Lucy, I think, to do it. And she did it. And I wrote most of the captions, and because I'm dyslexic, which I can't read properly. And so then I brought Bruce in, you know, whatever. So, you know, can you sort of go through the captions, because he's better than me. And that was it. It was a commission job, and we just got paid X amount of dollars for it. And it went out. So
I have a very funny story about this book, because when I went through the captions, there is no mention, there isn't any pages just talking about the sinking itself.
oh no.
It goes right from the Titanic leaving, you know, from Ireland. Then the next page is the Carpathia.
No, but they didn't want any. They wanted nothing to do with the wreck. Nothing.
Right.
To do with
I wrote Amy. I said, Amy, I go, you don't even just, you know, there's no picture of this ship, you know, it's tilted. We don't want to traumatize any children that might be coloring in this. So we don't want to bring it up. I said, well, wait a minute. Now, in one of the pictures is that boy holding the banner that says Titanic sinks, lives lost. That famous picture outside the White Star Line offices in Liverpool.
Well, here's a picture of the wreck.
Caption, what's that?
I said, here's a picture of the wreck in the back.
Is it in the coloring book?
Yeah, that's in the coloring book.
Right, but it doesn't show the sinking. You don't
No,
see
it doesn't.
It doesn't. But there, in one of the pages, is this boy holding the banner, and I forget what the kid's name was.
Yeah, he died a traumatic death or whatever.
Yeah, because the original caption said,
and
this is right. The original caption said, and this is young, yada yada yada, holding the sign. And years later, he will be drafted into the British Army, and the Germans would blow up his camp and all this violent shit. And I went, wait a minute. You're not going to discuss the sinking, but you're going to have the horrible way in which this young man dies. She goes, okay, you got a point there. So they cleaned that up.
Yeah, this just, it doesn't do that right there. It's an interesting book, y'all. If you don't have this one, I mean, I would recommend getting it. It's just really interesting. I'm never going to color in it, but it's a very interesting little quirky book. I like to collect books. I have more books than I will ever read in a lifetime, ever.
Have you colored any of the pictures in? Have you colored any of the pictures in?
No, this is going to be like in my collection, because it's very, I have another.
I remember Joanna, did I write the foreword in the front of the book? Did I? Introduction? Did I write that?
I think so.
I think I did. Yeah.
The foreword is credited to Steve Hall and.
Yeah, that's me. I wrote that in 10 minutes. I had a dictaphone in front of me, and I thought, well, how can I put this? And I sat there, and I went out, and I was making a cup of coffee, and I talked into a dictaphone, and I just said this, that, whatever it was, and then come back in and said, that sounds all right, typed it out, and off it went. I think it read pretty well, actually.
I think it's a great collector's item. Like I said, some books I buy to read, and I will eventually read them. And some books I just buy to collect. Like I have several books from 1912 I will never read. Never, ever, ever, because they're from 1912 and they'll fall apart. I have some.
That's very kind of you to say that.
That are worth like hundreds and hundreds of dollars, and I'll never read those because they're worth a lot of money and I don't want to mess them up. And then I have some books that I really want to read. And then I have some books that I just use for reference. But this one, I'm going to keep that one. I love it.
Oh, you like that one? To be honest, I'm not a great lover of it, to be honest, really. And yeah, okay, here it is.
The We have this one, the new one, RMS Titanic and 50
Yeah.
objects. I messaged with John White this morning and got permission to use these photographs. RMS Titanic and 50 objects. I'm about a third of the way through this one. It's great so far. It's really interesting. I would definitely recommend buying this one. It'll be available in the US, I believe in April. You can pre-order it. It's just really interesting. Images of artifacts from the collection of White Star memories. And not all the artifacts and images are actually from the Titanic, but they all kind of reference the Titanic. So it's just a really interesting premise. I don't know how you guys came up with this, but it's just a really cool and interesting book. I like it a lot.
You like the book? I'm just looking at the cover there. The size of the author's names at the bottom: Bruce Beveridge, Steve Hall. I don't think on the actual book it's that size. I'd said to the history press, I don't want our names that big. You know, I mean, this is not Broadway.
Yeah,
So, yeah,
I mean,
so
it's
it's not
really
as big. You
good
can
size.
see it's not as big. I'd rather our names smaller.
All right, so tell me about the cover. We won't spend a whole lot of time on this, but
I don't know. Bruce picked the photo because I mean we had let's go back. Titanic in photographs. It became a traveling exhibition, didn't it?
it did.
And there was and there was 2 or 3 locations which John White and David Bavard, whatever. Sorry, David, I can't remember.
David Scott
And then they
Bedard.
had them in the UK, and then it ended up on the Queen Mary traveling or an exhibition. And they took everything over there, and Bruce took a lot of photos, and I think that was one of the photos of Bruce took on the Queen Mary. So
It was. And that exhibit that they had in the Queen Mary, those 2 gentlemen are just wonderful human beings, and I love them. I really do. And this was another one of these old ideas that Steve had. This was his idea. It was initially supposed to be 100 objects, and we had pitched it to the history press. God, I don't know, it was 2014, 2015 or something. And I was it was in contact with the Titanic Museum with the Branson and Pigeon Forge, the curator. I'm so sorry, can't think of his name right now, but I'll think of it. But and he said, that's a great idea. And I said, yeah, we're going to do this book and it's going to advertise your museum and everything else. But there was a problem. The problem is that their artifacts are not always owned by the museum. They're leased.
That's exactly right.
Other collectors. And of course, there's no budget for these books. I don't have a budget. So it got put on hold, and then all of a sudden the China thing happened with me. And that was the end of 2016 to 2017. And the China thing is over now. So then Steve was like, let's get kick on this book again. All right. Okay. And where do I go where I can find artifacts all in one place that are actually owned, if you will, by the people that, and it's John, and David. So that's what I went with their stuff. Now, it's not Titanic and 50 Titanic objects. It's Titanic and 50 objects. And you're right. It's not always the pictures. And we throw in some stuff there with the Alan St. George, and David said, I want you to feature David St. George's stuff in here. Some of his repros. I said, no problem. And if you want, we'll throw it in. I thought it was nice because we were able to talk around it, talk around the images of like the cherub and so forth. So the idea, and Steve and I have never done a book in the past that tells what I call the basic Titanic timeline. We're not those, we're technical people, and it's like, oh my God, I have to actually go through the timeline and write, about, the whole, loading the lifeboats and make mention of, who got into what and this and that. First time for that. So it took me a little bit, I have I always kind of fall back to Eden and Haas's book is always, that was one of my main reference books, and other ones as well. But we had a little problem, getting the photographs together, but when a couple of them had to drop out, I had to revert to some of the images that were not used, or maybe they were used in the one of the editions of TTS7. There's like a little color section. But when it comes to this photograph, that exhibit was to me the most powerful item in that exhibit. Now, apparently there's another White Star Line lifeboat that exists from the Oceanic, and I guess it's legit. I don't know. But this one's from the Nomadic. And Steve would say, well, let's get a picture of the Nomadic. I said, Steve, it's not about the Nomadic. It's about the lifeboat. And what people don't understand is that, in the movie, in the Cameron movie, it's got all this extra illumination. It's all done for the set. It's done for a movie. But on the real ship, those deck lights were about 16 candle power. It's like the bulb from a ceiling light, a fan light. So you had a decision to make. Are you going to get in this boat that's barely lit, to drop down 70 feet into complete darkness? Or are you going to stay aboard and take your chances on the unsinkable ship? That is, to me, is the most powerful item in that exhibit. And I wanted that on the front cover for that reason. And it's not lit well, obviously. It's just kind of a symbol of what it was maybe like, in 1912, and those very dim deck lights. So that's the story behind that photograph.
That's very powerful. And that's something I will say. I've been to the Titanic Museum in Pigeon Forge, and they have a replica lifeboat, like from the Titanic, and it's in a very dimly lit room, like with a star field kind of behind it. And so you kind of get that sense of, what it was like for people, making that decision of boarding a lifeboat in the dark. So I love this cover for that reason, because it's dimly lit, it's dark, it's, a rickety looking lifeboat.
Surrounded by darkness,
Mm-hmm. I like
that was the idea.
It's very dramatic. I love the cover for this book.
Remind me later on, Joanne, that there was 2 or 3 other covers that we had for the book, and I didn't mind the covers, what we done for it. But Bruce is right; that's the best one. But there was a couple of other covers there which I thought, got the same message across. So, but it's like anything. I mean, someone's got to make a decision, whether it be me or Bruce or the publisher. Now, the publisher's going to use a cover which is going to help sell books.
That's a great one, and I hope it does work. The curator for the museums, the Titanic Museum attractions, is Paul Burns.
Oh, yes, Paul.
That's
I was like, I know I have
so
his
sorry, I forgot, but
And there's
Paul.
the man who runs the museums. I can't think of his name.
Yes, he's a great guy. It just wasn't working out. There's no budget for it. The other issues too is, I would have had to have traveled and taken photographs of some of these things which are in cases, and he wasn't going to let me into the cases to take the photos. It was just logistically a nightmare, so we didn't go with it.
It didn't happen. So I mean, that's just the way.
They have some neat stuff though. I will say that if you ever find yourself in the area, Pigeon Forge, or I've never been to the one in Branson, but I hear that one's pretty neat too. Very interesting stuff. If you're into looking at stuff, which is why I love this book. I love Titanic stuff. If you're at my house covered in Titanic stuff.
Yeah, the only time that I've ever seen anything recovered from the Titanic was when I was in New York. So
I haven't seen anything like that yet. I want to go to.
So bad. I think I was on what's that aircraft carrier in New York, the Intrepid.
Mm-hmm.
And I walked down, and because they were having the gala dinner, whatever it was, walked down, had a look at it, and there was a shelf there or something, had some stuff on it, and I looked at it for about probably 30 seconds and said, yeah, right, whatever, what's for dinner?
Now, like the museums in Pigeon Forge and Branson, they have things that were recovered from the floating debris after the wreck, but nothing recovered from the actual wreck site. but it's still,
Exactly. That's controversial, and I didn't want to get into that. There is one thing in this book that was recovered from the debris field, and that was that hunk of coal that have in here. But apparently that's not controversial because that was part of the ship, and it was a hunk of coal. You know,
I
it's
have
not
some
a possession of anybody's, I guess.
and I will say I have one of Alan St. George's clocks. My husband was kind enough to buy that for me for a wedding present when we were in Forge, because we got married at the Pigeon Forge Museum on the grand staircase.
See the photos. Lovely photos.
The clock I have is like this big, but it's so beautiful. Alan St. George does an amazing job. So seeing that in this book was just, you know, it's definitely worth photographing.
Oh, lovely. I see the photos, Joanna, they'll look lovely.
Oh, thank you.
Is it John Jocelyn? Is he
Yes,
the
the
man?
Jocelyn's, they're the ones who
Yeah,
own the museum.
I
I
had dinner
met
with
Mary
him.
when I was there. She's fantastic.
I had dinner with him in New York. He's a nice guy.
Oh, did you? I didn't get to meet her. I met Mary there. She's very nice.
Yeah.
This is Bruce Beveridge's page. Some little known facts about Bruce Beveridge. For those of you who are watching, or those of you who are going to watch the recorded version, did you know that Bruce helped with the scale model specification for the Minecraft and Danbury Mint models? And I'm sure many other things, but those were some things I found interesting. My kids play Minecraft, and I have the Danbury Mint model. And then I found this very interesting. Bruce wrote the introduction for Titanic love stories. It's not any introduction. It's a 19-page introduction.
It is? I don't even remember it.
I have Titanic love stories, and Titanic Love Stories is a fantastic book. I didn't realize it until I pulled my book out and I was like, he wrote the introduction for that. And it's literally a 19-page introduction. And it's very great. It's a fantastic book, fantastic introduction. And who knew?
I didn't know. So they contacted me. They wanted me to write the book, and I said, "Listen, I got to tell you, I don't do passengers. I just there's people out there that do a wonderful job with passengers." But they said, "Would you please would you write an introduction?" And that was a long time ago. I don't even remember. I didn't remember it being that long. But if you say so, I don't have a copy of that book, so I've never seen it. To look to read it.
Buy it like in bookstores. I got mine from a used book website, but it's a great book. You know,
the
Minecraft thing, I forgot about that one too. There was a kid got a hold of me. He wanted, I don't know what he wanted, my plans or something, and he made this Minecraft thing. I didn't realize it was that famous.
What do you think, Joanna? He would have said, "Yeah, all right." Then a foreword by Bruce Beveridge and Steve Hall.
what? And then there's the you created the general arrangement plan, which is used to help dive teams explore the wreck. This is just unreal, the detail in this. You can, I found this website where you could order a copy of this. It's massive. It's like, I don't know, the dimensions were like,
It's 3 by 5. It's a 3 feet by 5 feet.
Okay, so 3 by 5. Okay, can you still order it? The website was kind of old. I couldn't tell if it was still active or not.
And there's Zazzle it's available at Zazzle, but I think that the Encyclopedia Titanica, I think you can order it off of there. I think, unless it's only the digital form of it. I don't recall.
I don't know. I was just blown away by this. I was like, wow. Okay. So
I got a hold of who's the name of the man that's the start of that? Man, I'm having a hard time with my names tonight. But you got to come on, Bill. What was his name? You know, from the Encyclopedia Titanica. But he got a hold of me.
Lost Bruce. I mean, we lost Steve again.
We lost Steve. But anyways, he got a hold of me, and him and I communicate every once in a great while. I met him back when he first started that website in 2000 in England. And we talked about the plan thing. And I said, you know what? Why don't you just take the plans, whatever you sell a digital version of them off of your website, and you keep the money. I don't want any money from them. You keep the money to help, to pay for your website. And that's the way it's our agreement's been this whole time. So when he sells a copy of those plans on Encyclopedia Titanica, that's when he goes to upkeep the website.
Mm. They're just fantastic. So back to the live feed again. Tony Strublick says John and David are awesome people. I owe them a lot. They've been always so gracious and helpful. Cody Reinhardt says the big pieces in Las Vegas. Yes, I want to see that. Tony
Phil is his name from Encyclopedia Titanica.
Okay. Tony Strublick says Pigeon Forge was awesome. The replica staircase alone is worth the visit. It's amazing the scale that it really was. Yes, the stairs are very short though. I was so afraid I was going to trip up them.
Yeah, and the dome is round.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so moving right along, last slide. Okay, this is Steve's page, and then I kind of added the Titanic China thing in there because I ran out of room anywhere else. So Steve helped co-write Titanic Solving the Mysteries. And I have that. He also wrote this really neat little book, Titanic 101, The Great Infographic History. And that, let's see, Titanic 101 was published in 2016. Solving the Mysteries was published in 2019. He also joined the Titanic Honor and Glory crew for the 102nd anniversary when they did their live stream. Steve also was an advisor to Clive Palmer for the Titanic 2 project. Can you imagine? And then actually Steve and Bruce were involved with the Titanic replica for the Chinese Romandesia theme park. Yikes. Anyway, that's all I have. Hopefully some little known facts for you guys about Bruce and Steve.
So I think that let's have a look at the Titanic rebuild, say.
Okay.
I just had a biscuit, sorry, so it's behind the table.
That's fine.
Look, my opinion is, I mean, people talk about raise the Titanic, raise the wreck, do this, whatever. I think it's quite easy. Why don't you just make another one? So that was always in my mind. Anyway, I had saw Clive Palmer and he'd said, going to rebuild the Titanic, whatever. I thought that's really lovely. And I just saw a photo there and he was on television or whatever it was and had Titanic ship magnificent books there or whatever. It was great. So I managed to contact him. And he said he chauffeured down in his Bentley to pick me up and took me up there to the airport in Brisbane or whatever it was, and private planes and everything. And I said to him, I said, it's our books. I mean, just say, Steve Hall, Bruce Beveridge, whatever. So he said, yeah. He said, we're looking at really rebuilding the ship. I said, good idea. It's great. And I thought, well, that's all right then. That's not. I just wanted to meet the guy. That was it. And then about a month later on, he said, Steve, he said, we're having a meeting up at the Coolum Resort. He said, I'll send the helicopter down for you. I said, what? So I'll send the helicopter down, pick you up. We're having a meeting. So it sends a helicopter down. Christine drives me over, get the helicopter fly up there. Absolutely lovely. And it was fantastic stuff. And we talked all about it, and it was all progressing forward, whatever it was. And then they were trying to find me before the helicopter left because they were all heading down to Brisbane. Thank you, Chris. And in the helicopter on the way down, I said that there's no Marconi room on the new Titanic 2. And he said, well, really? I said, it's not even in the plans. I said, we need to fix that up. He said, yeah, good idea. He said, and by the way, I'm going out for dinner tonight. Anyone got any money? And I said, I've got some notes there, some money. I said, but it's in the boot, which is in the helicopter. And I said, oh, we can't worry about that. So it comes in, flies in, lands on whatever it was. Anyway, 2 weeks later on, he phones up and he said, Steve, he said, can you get over to Helsinki? He said, to sort the plans out. I said, yeah, okay. And that was it. And 3 days later on, I'm on a plane to Helsinki and spent a month there working on the plans. And it was really cold. And I was just sitting over there in a hotel room and working on the plans with it. So really interesting. It was fantastic. So it was good to work around with the people who knew how to build ships, which was at the time Delta Marine, which was fantastic. Gave me an opportunity to ask some questions. Sorry, guys, I've got sinus and hay fever, whatever. And at that time, I just said to the guys, I said, you know, what do you think about Titanic? I mean, you know, was it a well-built ship? And they said yes. Even by today's standards, the whole form was fantastic. And I said to them, I said, what could you do to make it go faster? If you had Titanic today and you put it in the dry dock, what could you guys do to make it go faster? He said this bulbous bow. He said that it had, he said probably maybe half a knot. And he said with the propellers, he said if we redesigned the propellers with modern day propellers, he said it would have been worth another knot. He said we could have got the old bugger up to 25 knots, which would have been pretty close to put her in for the blue riband. So that was interesting. And the last thing I've got to say, which I found rather funny, I got off the plane in Helsinki and I didn't know what I was doing, and I sort of go down through customs, whatever it was. And I come up to this guy, and where you give the passport in, and he's this huge guy. He's a monster of a guy. He looked like that fella Han. You remember that movie, Journey to the Center of the Earth? He had the goose or something. He's this huge guy. And I'm walking up to it, and he said, what, are you so late? I said, I don't know where I'm going. He said, what are you doing here? I said, I just got off the plane. He said, what business do you have in Helsinki? I said, I'm helping a friend build a boat. He said, how big's the boat? I said, I think 860 feet long. He said, well, whatever. He said, go, get lost. So I went through. And that's how it started. And I still remember it today. And I think we're that close to building it, to be honest. So anyway, I enjoyed it. And then, of course, Bruce with the rebuilding Chengdu, or where it is, which he can tell you about.
Well, thanks, but I need to get something to drink before I go into that. If anybody's interested.
Well, Christine just brought me a cup of coffee, so go and get yourself a drink, and I'll just
around the corner here. Let me just grab something. Steve, tell him
I'll tell him something. Now, you know, the interesting thing, with Titanic too, I thought it was certainly a goer, and I think it would have been absolutely fantastic. And it would have been absolutely fantastic to have been on the bridge coming into New York in Titanic 2. And I would absolutely loved it. But sometimes, if things happen or they don't happen, it just depends on what happens in life, doesn't it, really? But I would have liked to have seen the Chinese Titanic. That would have been nice. And Bruce was over there 2 or 3 times, and he said, Steve, come over. And I was having a wisdom tooth out, and I couldn't go.
Titanic too. Do you think they would have, installed modern day plumbing, like bathrooms or whatever in each?
It would have been, like you would have had an ensuite, or to go to the toilet or something, or a bathroom there, air conditioning, things like that. But the general idea, I think, from what he was after was he wanted to, create the experience. Which I think is what he wanted to do, plus have modern amenities. If you want some modern part of Titanic, you go down to a different deck, and then you can do whatever you want to,
But it wouldn't have been third class with what was it? 1, 2 bathrooms. I can't remember. I used to know this stuff.
These days,
third class, or would anybody pay for the third class experience?
I don't know. I had signed agreements with him. I understand basically from third class it was a sample. If the Titanic 2 had been built, it would have been a sample. Not going to recreate the whole thing. You got a sample of it. Here it is. This is what it was like. Sit there and go and dance and do that and see if you can find bros or whatever.
Mhm.
and dance around and whatever. I think it was the sampling, and I think it would have been quite successful. But of course, maybe in hindsight, looking at it, COVID-19, if it had been built, what happened to all the cruise ships? So they were all rafted up and against others, and I don't know. I don't know. It's, you know, it's up to, you know, whoever's who wants to pay for it, they can have it. Same as the Chinese, you know. But I enjoyed my time working on the project. I did the best I could, and if it comes around again, yeah, sure, jump at it. So,
what's Clive Palmer like? Is he,
well, I thought it was lovely.
he's not
Um, I thought
charismatic?
well, first time I met him, I just thought he was just like, you know, myself. I just thought he was a lovely guy. You know, sometimes you meet someone and they just, maybe they got a few quid in their pocket. And I just thought he was a really lovely guy, and had dinner with him once or twice. I just thought he was just a normal, nice guy. And maybe in the end, I don't know. I had no problems. I thought it was really good. Some people might have been criticised. I don't know what they were criticising for. He was just being who he was. I didn't mind it. Good on you, Clive. Give me a ring, mate, and let's have another go at perhaps finishing it off. Eh?
I think that would be neat. All right, so let's
Mm.
talk about the Chinese project. What happened there? I mean, they got
Well,
so
that's
far on it, you know, much
Bruce.
farther than Clive Palmer's project. What happened?
That's your call,
Chinese-
Bruce. Your boat.
You know, that would have been a wonderful thing if they would have completed it. That ship they were building was to be a center attraction in a very large theme park called Romantasy. And the theme park would have been built in stages. In phase one, which they had started on, but it does actually has the world's largest indoor beach. Incredible, huge building, and they had the visitor center. They were going to build these indoor rivers of Venice, all inside, because you know the sun doesn't shine in China; it's always foggy all day. And but there was these 7 investors that had went into this theme park, Romantasy. And one of the investors was a big Titanic nut. The Cameron movie was very, very big in China. The Chinese loved it. This man, you know, Kate Winslet, they even brought, you know, Celine Dion, they brought in these Russian singers that looked like Kate Winslet to sing the, you know, the theme, you know, My Heart Will Go On, and these big banquets and all this money spent. Mr. Juan was his name. Whenever his phone rang, it would play My Heart Will Go On, you know. So you're in this backwoods Chinese restaurant somewhere eating, you know, some kind of duck liver or something. And all of a sudden you hear this My Heart Will Go On phone ringing. But they had this idea that they were going to build this thing, and it never was going to go out to sea, but it's actually was going to be built, or it was built, actually, just wasn't completed, inside of its own dry dock, and right next to a river. And what these men did for their real job is they are hydroelectric. They build hydroelectric plants in different areas around the world. They build dams. And upstream from Romantasy is a dam. What they were going to do is, when this ship was done, they were going to go in there with the bulldozer, bust down one wall of this dry dock. The dockside wall was about 6 feet taller than the rest of it. They bust down a piece of this dry dock. They flood the river, piss off the farmers on the other side. Trust me, they were mad because they were going to lose all their farmland. But they were going to flood the river. The water would flow into this dry dock, and the ship would rise. My estimation is about 6 feet. So it would actually float. It just wouldn't go anywhere. And it was going to be a interactive hotel. In other words, you would have the employees would be actors. You'd have your, the maids and the deck officers would all be actors, just like you would have at Disney, you know. And we had actually designed the company I had to form to partake of this. I had to form a company in order for them to pay me. That's another long story. But we designed the whole wharf building, which would be a kind of a combination of the White Star Line shed. It was like about 5 different buildings all in one large structure. Then at the end of it would be the Southwestern and all this. But that would be where you would get your tickets for the hotel room. or whatever. They wanted to march like 8,000 people a day through this ship. Oh, I could go on. It was a disaster because they had the, I'm getting off on a tangent here. But that was the idea. It was going to be an interactive hotel experience. You could buy the costumes like on the, you know, in the White Star Line shed on the shore and all this. There was a park was designed, all this great stuff. And what it happened, they got a hold of me. I got an email one day in 2016 before Thanksgiving from a company called Celebrity Speakers. And I get stuff like this on occasion. So usually I ignore it, but this time I didn't. And I said, you know, they said, are you interested in going to China and giving a talk? They'll pay the whole thing. I said, yeah, right. All right, if you're serious about it, give me a call. Well, they did, the company from England. And they said that the Chinese are laying the keel for their Titanic that they're going to create. And they would like you there to give a talk about it, about, you know, because you're a expert in all this. And I said, well, certainly it's because of these two huge books, right? TTSM. Oh, no, they don't know anything about that. It's because they saw you on the television special with Bob Ballard called Saving the Titanic with Bob Ballard, National Geographic, came out in 2012. And they asked Bob Ballard to do it, and he told them to go scratch. So they called me. They told me they asked James Cameron too, but Cameron wanted $600,000. They told him to scratch or whatever. Are you interested? Or we'll pay the whole thing. I said, yeah, well, I guess why not? You know, I had just went through a bad divorce, you know, and so I was one of three people. I just couldn't figure out why they wanted me out of it. There's a lot of other great guys. Why me? But it's because I happened to be in that television show with Bob Ballard, and that was the reason why. So I said, okay, well, listen, when I go over there, can I bring these books with me, the TTSM, and can I present them to whoever's in charge? And, you know, they had to say, okay, hold on. And they got back to me and said, yeah, that would be fine. And then we will instruct you when you can give them the name of the man, and the chairman of the board is Mr. Sue. Okay. So they paid for the whole thing. And they asked me how much I wanted. I just threw a number out. It was cheap, in my opinion, but that's what it was anyways. So when I'm on my way to China, there's always a layover. This layover happened to be in Shanghai, and I met another round guy that spoke English there, going in the same place, named Curtis Schnell, and he was a Hollywood set director. The general contractor of this whole project, the Titanic and the whole theme park, whose name was Charlie Gao, had hired Curtis Schnell as a set director. They had reached out initially to Peter Lamont from the Cameron movie, and Peter Lamont was, I guess, obviously not interested. Plus, he was getting up in age apparently. So he said, "Why don't you get a hold of Curtis Schnell?" So they got a hold of Curtis. They hired Curtis. Been working with them for probably a good 6 months before I got there. Curtis and I didn't hit it off too well at the airport, but we ended up going there for this event, this teal laying ceremony. I never did give a talk. All they did was march me around the news cameras. It literally marched, what should I do now? Just stand there and smile and wave, that kind of thing. And the very last event of that trip was what they called the Titanic Experts Roundtable. And it was all the 7 investors, Mr. Sue, it was Kurt Schnell, a couple of other structural engineers out of Hollywood, who they needed steel structure engineers to help build these huge ceilings for this indoor rivers of Venice and so forth. Because the Chinese were not comfortable with their own technology, so they had to reach out to the Vegas engineers. And they had the press sitting across, and I sat next to Curtis, and I had the opportunity then to present my book to Mr. Sue, which I did. I got a picture of that. All right, I gotta get to it. And I wasn't scheduled to say anything. They just sat me next to Curtis. So and they had the little, and they had the earpieces like you see with the UN people, as somebody translating. So everything was translated into perfect English. And there was some of the other people that were trying to sell, some of the shipbuilding companies, like the ones that were working with Palmer, were trying to sell their services to the Chinese. But the Chinese were using a Chinese shipyard, which are all government owned. they have different names, CSIC, which was located out of Wuhan, which sounds familiar with the COVID deal. And I was in Wuhan about 2 months before COVID broke out. Incredible, but it's okay. Anyways, so they go around the table and everybody gives a little speech, and it comes over here to Curtis. Now it's supposed to, and Curtis Shell says, I don't have anything to say, but I'm going to hand the microphone over to my trusting partner, Bruce Beveridge, and they hand me the microphone out of nowhere. I had to make up something there on the spot. So what I did was I said, China is the only place in the world that could ever make a copy of the Titanic. Number one is because they have the manpower. Number two, they have the finances to do it. And number three, because they have the love of the ship to pull it off. And the whole place went up, man. They were clapping, standing ovation. They marched me out, put me in another room in front of the press. And then later on that night, I went back to Chengdu, and then my translator said, Mr. Su, I'd like to see you in his office. Because the offices for 7-Star was right there where I was staying. So I went and I saw him with the translator, and he had the books that I had presented him on the table. And he said, can you do this? Can you advise us on how to do this? Can you show us how to do all this interior stuff? And they already had plans. They had already, just Charlie Gao had already created blueprints for this ship. And, but the interiors were never really fully formed. So I said, sure. He said, yes, I can advise you on this. And then I said, would you also hire my co-authors to help me with this? I said, I know a little bit about a lot of things, but I don't specialize in any one thing. And Mr. Su said, he said, no, you hire him. And that's when I said, this is going to be a big deal. This is a big deal. And I told Mr. Su that I wanted Curtis Schnell from Hollywood. I want him to work for me. He says, you got it. He works for you now, no longer Charlie Gao. So in, I don't know, it was February, right after the Chinese New Year of 2017. Curtis and I flew out to China and came with the whole proposal of how we were going to advise them for a 1-year agreement to be paid quarterly. It was over $1 million. So, but that wasn't money to go in my pocket. That was a budget. So when I got back to the United States, I had to form a company in order to get paid. And I reached out to my co-authors again. Some of them were interested, some of them weren't. I reached out to other people in the Titanic community. They know who they are. I figured, hey, if they're paying for it, let's make some money off of these people. Curtis Schnell was in Hollywood, California. He was a set director. He had to draw plans. They only wanted, out of the 14 different designs of period staterooms, they only wanted 5. Daniel was involved with this one, obviously. But the Hollywood, Curtis Schnell hired on 3 Hollywood grade draftsmen. These are people that can build the Alamo from one photograph. They were those kind of people. But we had to create these staterooms inside of the space that they were building because their rooms were not the same size. This ship was actually horrible. And so Curtis put these draftsmen to work to try to fit all this in. They picked, the Regency sitting room and the Empire, one of the Empire suites and so forth, in the Harlan and Wolff design A and B or whatever it was. And we fit all this inside these rooms, the size that they created. But when they flew me back to China, I said, I want to see your blueprints that Charlie Gao had created for this ship. Okay, you come in this room here, they laid the blueprints out, and I was like, oh my God. The funnels were round in cross section. They had an open B-deck promenade. The sitting room, where Rose was drawn, wrong place on the ship. Are you sure that's in the right place? I said, am I sure? Oh, you think you're talking to? Of course it's in the wrong place. This Charlie Gao told these investors that he had went to Belfast and gotten the original blueprints of the Titanic, and that Charlie Gauss draftsman had redrawn these construction plans based on the original blueprints. He was lying. He went to Belfast and he got plans, but he never used them. Instead, he went on the internet. He ripped off from Clyde Palmer, ripped off the Bulbula Spa, which was originally on this thing. He had the bow angle wrong. And he took the Olympic plans, the people that don't know any better, who think that they say these are the general arrangement plans of Titanic when they're not. And he put it all together, but shit, he ripped off from the internet. He even ripped off Palmer's interior, the drawings, the color drawings of the different staterooms that are still up on the internet. This guy ripped it off. Well, when they got a hold of me and I told him, guess what? You got screwed. This guy has been lying to you. This is not how, this is wrong, you know. But I'm going to do you a favor. I'm going to try to make this work. Mr. Sue was very concerned. He said, well, we have already ordered the steel to these specifications. I said, with a little bit of Hollywood magic, some fancy paint work, we're going to try to get this to work so it's at least acceptable. Well, the other problem with Mr. Gao was this, is he was a gambler, and not a very good gambler at that. And all the other projects in that theme park, he was in charge of general contractor. He was marking up the contracts at 100% profit. No, big time, no. China, no more than 5%. So he got fired. The bank that was financing this whole thing dropped Seven Star Investment. They stopped the funding. And that was, and I never got paid my last payment in December 1st of 2017. I had opened up this, I had a business, I had an office, I had a lot of employees, and no longer had any income. They never did pay me. And, but they tried to get financing again, and it wasn't working for them. They tried to sell these ribbons, all this bullshit, whatever. They wanted me to help, I said, I'll do the best I can. But they didn't want to pay anything. So what happened was they had to go to a government back to the communist bank, took over this project, because not only did they have the Titanic that they started, but they also were tying up all this acreage in this county and in Sichuan province. So the communist bank took over and for the funding, and they said, well, we're going to pay to have the world's largest indoor beach completed, but why in the hell are we going to pay you to build an icon of Western civilization? I didn't do that in the middle of China. So they wouldn't fund them, and there it sits rusting. The county, the Suning, Daying County was trying to raise funds because they don't want this big piece of steel sitting there either. And they continued on for a number of months, and then at a slow pace. Then COVID hit. It went through that, but now, as far as I understand, and I'm still in contact with my translator over there, it's a dead deal. It's just sitting there rusting away. They're going to turn it into the world's largest flower pot. I have no idea. But it was wonderful. It was a wonderful idea. I mean, I told Mr. Sue this, if you're going to be on the front cover of Money Magazine, if you pull this off, they were going to allow Western students on summer break that come in there and work, like internships. We were going to have we even had Hollywood, one of the Hollywood costume companies had already done sample uniforms for the officers. They wanted 2 third-class costumes, and they wanted 2 first-class passenger, male and female. All this was all done up, all big-time Hollywood. Dead in the water. That's what happened with that. Steve Hall
makes you wonder, Bruce. I mean, it would have made a good book, wouldn't it?
Well, they wanted the book. They wanted you and I to write this book, and we were putting together the information for it. They kept asking me, how is the book coming along? I said, the book will be done once you finish the ship, because it's got to be from beginning to end. And I had a photographer who I paid a lot of money to follow me around in China to take pictures of all this shit. In fact, he's the one that took a picture of that lifeboat. He was with me on the Queen Mary for that week. I had a whole crew on the Queen Mary. It was It was all part of the under the Chinese thing I was researching, and they brought me down into the areas behind the bulkheads and so forth, just so I can kind of. It was an excuse to spend money, is all it was. Let's be realistic about it. I just wanted to go there to hang out with John and David, but I came up with an excuse for it. That's what I did. So Brian took the picture of that light bulb, but there was supposed to be this book, and we have a lot of pictures. A lot of pictures. I took Mr. Sue and then translator to England for the 2017 BTS convention. And they spent most of their time, when not in the convention things, taking pictures of the sky in the local park in Southampton. I said, what are you doing? To take a picture of the sky, we can see the sky. You can't see it in China, see, because it's polluted. So a lot of money after nothing. So that's that.
That makes me really sad.
It is sad because it was a great project. You know, it was a great project.
That just, it seems like such a waste, because that could have been such a cool thing. Not that I would have ever been able to make it to China, but still, that just seems like such a cool thing. It's a shame that something like that couldn't happen here in the US. There's so much talent, so many people that could invest in a project like that here.
Yeah, it could be done if somebody wanted to invest the money. I mean, one of the things that we did design for this company, which was never done, but they were very serious about early on, was a Titanic on land that was going to be just kind of like what you see at Pigeon Forge or Branson, just the front end of the ship scaled down. But it was going to have a ride through it. These were ideas they had gotten when they went to the Titanic Belfast.
Mm-hmm.
They tried to connect with Titanic Belfast to try to get their branding for the hotel, but Titanic Belfast basically told them to go scratch. I get it, but they wanted it to be an amusement ride. See, so not only do they had a hunk of property and they were going to build the bow of it, but it was going to be an attraction and a museum.
Mm-hmm.
So it's going to be like so you go on a roller coaster ride really and see. I guess they have that at Titanic Belfast. I don't know. But where you can take this shuttle thing and it shows you these different exhibits, and that's what they wanted, but it never happened. And it could be done. It could be done here in America if somebody wanted to invest some money in. Titanic makes money consistently. It's not making a lot of money, but it's consistent.
It is consistent. I mean, here it is, 2022. It sank in 1912. So we're still talking about it. People
we will
about it. People are still making movies about it.
There you go.
I was hoping Cameron would make another one. I was hoping, God bless him for what he did, because if it wouldn't have been for that, I mean, the lines were so big at the BTS for membership, they went all the way around the block after that movie came out. Of course, it all died down. It's only the people that are true enthusiasts that are left. But it was a big push for the whole thing.
Cody Reinhardt basically says that they should make a replica in the Great Lakes.
Sure. We'll make it by Chicago. That way you can leave a white envelope under the door, bring in some extra guests. You know what I mean? I don't know.
So really,
if somebody would pay for it, would do it,
Joanne.
Hmm?
So let me ask you a question. What should we do? Build another one? What do you think? You're an enthusiast. We've got a lot of people listening in. We can't raise what's down there. We can't raise the Britannic. Well, you could if you wanted to, but I don't have the coin. And the front piece is broken. Do you think we should build another Titanic? What do you think?
Wouldn't be because the Greek government wouldn't allow, but that's okay.
What do you think? Should we build another one? Come on, you get a lot of money. Would you build another Titanic?
I don't know.
I don't know. See, Palmer was going to build one that actually sailed. So it's all going to be done to the modern. All of the regulations and so forth, the Solus stuff. Oh, by the way, the Chinese ship that they were building was also to whatever the Chinese version of Solus. And I asked them why they were going to do that. Why are you doing this to a ship that's not going to go to sea? That's another story, and I won't talk about that now. But so you got to have all the modern, regulations and all that. But so it can only be a ship that's actually a cruise ship that looks like Titanic. It's never going to be Titanic. You're never going to be able to rip it, shell plates together like that again. So I think somebody should do it. I don't know why not.
I don't
You're
know.
always gonna
Everybody
have
said if I
customers.
had the money, I would. I will say, Pigeon Forge and what's the other one? Branson, they're onto something there because standing on the grand staircase in Pigeon Forge that's built to scale, it does something to you because you're just standing there and you're like, because the first time I went there 2 years ago, we were late to my then boyfriend, now husband. We were late to the gala dinner. We were supposed to be helping set up for it. And we were like running to the elevators, and to get to the elevators there, to get to where the gala dinner was, you had to run through like where the grand staircase was. And I turned around and it was like breathtaking. It was like, oh my gosh. And it was just like, I'm in the grand staircase. And it's like, it's just something, it does something to you. It's just like, and if the whole ship was like that, I think it would be a worthy cause. Like if you walked into the dining room or into the cafe or into, the grand staircase or out onto the bow or into the smoking room or into the gymnasium or, into, the Marconi room or onto the bridge, if it had that same effect. And they have a replica of the bridge there too. It's like, it kind of gives you chills. Like I had kind of the same experience walking to the bridge, put my hands on the wheel. It's just like, wow. Or I sat in the replica lifeboat. And it's just like, this is kind of neat. It's just, I don't know. I think maybe building another Titanic would be kind of cool. Not that I would ever.
If somebody wanted to pay for it, it would be really cool.
I know I can't pay for it, but somebody could, and other people could have that experience, and it would be like paying homage to the Titanic that didn't make it. I would like to see a Titanic that could actually make that voyage.
So let me ask you, Joanna. Right?
Mhm.
Having been involved in one or both projects for the rebuilding of the Titanic, right? Now, if I was to ask you as a lady, right, and no one ever asks this question. The questions are always phrased around to a man. Oh, did you like Titanic? Did it look strong? What do you think about this? Or, does it look masculine? Whatever. As a lady, what is it about Titanic which draws you to Titanic? As a lady, there were a lot of ladies and women who are interested in Titanic. I mean, I'm sure you're not sitting there looking at the reciprocating engines and the turbine engine, and you're not looking at the bridge, and you're not looking at the Marconi, and you don't care whether it's got 3 propellers, blades on the middle one, and who cares, and whether the rudder was small or what. As a lady, and there's a few listening to us here now, what did you like about it? What was it about Titanic that drew you as a lady?
I became interested in Titanic. I've told the story a million times. When I was 6 years old, I was sent away to watch cable TV at my grandparents' house because they didn't want me to watch Dallas with them. So I was sent to watch anything other than Dallas in their room. And so I was channel surfing and I came across Raise the Titanic on cable TV. And I saw the part with the wreck coming up out of the water.
Oh, it's coming up.
And I was, as a 6-year-old, I was like,
Ooh.
And that same year, the wreck was discovered. And I remember seeing that on the news because like every 6-year-old, I watch the news with my parents.
Wow.
And I was just hooked by that point. And then I went to the library, the local library, and I checked out all the Titanic books, and I watched the National Geographic little VHS that my library had about the discovery of the Titanic. I watched it over and over and over again. So I really don't know what the one thing was, or even is. It's just something about it, the wreck, the tragedy, the mystery, the Edwardian time period, I guess.
Oh, let me
Something about it.
let me phrase the question differently. All right. We've got a time machine.
Uh-huh.
We've got the TARDIS. You know what the TARDIS is?
Yes, I do.
We've
Yes.
got the TARDIS.
Okay.
And there's Steve and Bruce. And they're waving, hello, Joe, come on, let's go back and have a look. I mean, whatever. And isn't it funny with Titanic, it's Rose, and then in the Return of Doctor Who, the girl's name was Rose too. I don't know whether you ever picked it up. But let's go back to Titanic. And you've got your digital camera, you've got your iPhone and everything. And here we are. Do you want to be at Belfast? Do you want to be at Southampton? And let's put you at Southampton. Let's put you on the boat, and you've got the camera. What are you going to take photos of? Where are you going to go and have a look? What are you going to look at? The dining room? What are you, not the Marconi room? And so what are you going to take a photo of?
The Grand Staircase. I got,
Okay.
when we went to the museum, that's the main thing. It was a Grand Staircase. I took a million photos there. I felt drawn to that place. I felt like I had been there before.
Would you be disappointed if the clock wasn't there?
I think I would. It feels like it should be there. I know that
Well, you know, there's talk that
there
the
are
clock
theories
wasn't
that
there.
that it wasn't there.
Yeah, that's right. There's talk that the clock wasn't there at all, that it wasn't fitted at the time.
Mhm.
So, but you've got a camera and you're going to go around, take a few photos. So therefore you're going to get the Grand Staircase and you're going to go down to the dining room. You're in first class.
Mhm.
What are you going to do? Take some photos and sell it to Steve Hall for a new book?
Mhm.
We haven't got a photo of the Grand Staircase. I don't think they're going to let you down in the engine room somehow. I don't think the chief engineer Bell's going to let you down there.
And I would take pictures of the restaurant that was decorated in ivy and lattice.
Really? Okay.
Yes. I didn't realize that that restaurant was decorated in ivy and lattice,
Yes.
but I decorated my kitchen in ivy and lattice. And it wasn't until years later that I saw the photos of the
So
restaurant.
what are you going to say when you walk down there and you think to yourself, I'm going to go down to the smoking room and it says men only? There was no sign that said men only.
I would go in anyway.
No, listen. So you're going to go down to the smoking room and you're going to go down there with the boys.
And I would take pictures of the beautiful.
So you're going to
stained
go down
glass.
there, mate. You're going
I
to
would
go
take
down
pictures. I would go in there and I would take pictures of
there.
the
Can I have a ciggy?
glass windows in there.
And what are you going to order from the bar? What are you going to have to drink?
Um,
Highball? What are you going to have? Whiskey? Irish whiskey, of course. Yeah. Let's put you on the Titanic. Come on. Everyone's listening. Here's Joanne. She's on the Titanic. Okay, then she's just wrote a letter. Hello to whoever it is in the reading and writing room. And you've got a book out of the library, haven't you? So we don't know what book you've got yet. So, but you've got the book. And what you've just had dinner. You've gone down to the a la carte restaurant. So I don't know what you've had, spaghetti bolognese, I don't know. Did they sell pizza in the spaghetti? Did they sell pizza on Titanic? Well, or Italians, you tell me they've got to have it. And then you're going to turn around and you're going to go and I think, well, I'm going to have a nice drink and I'm going to go and have a ciggy. And I'm not going to go out. It's freezing cold outside. I'm not going out on B deck, right? So I want to have a ciggy. It's too cold. I'm going to go in the smoking room. So you're going to go in the smoking room. And you're going to have your packet of whatever, Marlboro, whatever you've got. You got your lighter. Everyone's fascinated. You've got a big lighter. And really, you're going to have a drink. So you're going to get a whiskey or something, and you're going to see the couple of the boys there. And they're talking about shares or something and playing cards. Would you do that? Would you go into the smoking room?
Yeah, I'm going.
Good on you, mate. Show them what you're supposed to do. So
I
you
can
take
play
a few
21
photos.
because
Yeah,
I played that on Titanic Adventure at a time.
You're done. Now let me ask you another question while you're here. We had the video game. What was it? Adventure at a Time,
Hmm.
and that was quite interesting. I think Bill Sorter was involved in that.
He was.
I mean, I really liked it. I mean, you know,
I love that
I had-
game.
well, if I'd seen that before, I mean, I'd be thinking, geez, what a great name. What was the spy's name? Penny Pringle?
Yeah, I think
Penny
so.
Pringle.
Yes.
What a
Yes.
great name, Penny Pringle.
Yes.
But
I like Smeddles. He was really creepy.
what that fellow, what you got the what is it? The seasickness. What's it called? Can't remember.
What is it?
Oh, an elder man.
Melvin.
You got the elder man. So that's okay. But now I'm just interested from a woman's point of view, from Titanic. If you're on Titanic, where would you go? And I really think in the end, first class, and really you're going to go down and you're going to have a game of squash, or you're going to go in the swimming pool, or what are you going to do?
I would probably check out the gymnasium and the first class lounge and the first class dining saloon, and
This is sounding like a book, isn't it?
yeah, and I would probably check out like third class and just go down there and see what they are up to.
You're going to go down and have a dance? Yeah.
Maybe.
Okay. But you're in
It's funny
first class. You're going to go to the swim pool. You're going to have a game of squash. You're going to have a word to the fellas, whatever his name is. You're going to catch up with Penny Pringle in the gymnasium. And you're going to go to the smoking room. You're going to have a Marlboro Red.
I've got to check out the Turkish bath.
Would you go in there? Would you, after someone got what, electrocuted?
Yes.
You
But
still go down
Turkish
there?
bath on Titanic Adventure at a Time is wrong. That's fashioned after Olympics Turkish bath, not Titanic's.
Oh, that's right. It is incorrect, actually.
I would want to see what Titanic's actual Turkish bath looks
You know what color the tiles were in the Turkish bath?
They were painted kind of like a greenish blue floral kind of. It was really pretty.
Titanic, the ship magnificent.
Yes.
Gotcha, haven't I?
Stevenson like recreated it.
Okay. Oh. So
I think for the
Why-
Reagan Library or something.
that's right. So while you're there, can you take a few photos for me?
Yes.
So me and Daniel and Bruce and Art and Scott thinking about updating Titanic in photographs. Can you take some photo for us? iPhone will do fine. So can you go up to
Android.
so can you take a photo of the chart room?
Okay.
So I mean you can sort of
I don't know if they'd let me in there.
miles, you go up and say, can we just have a photo of, the chart room? I just want to know what side the chart table was on.
Sure. You think they'd let me in the bridge too? Takes pictures up there.
No, not interested in the bridge. And can we see if the clock was on the wall there, the honor and glories on the wall? You know what I mean?
So I would definitely take a picture of that because I think
I would really like that. Yeah. There's a couple of photos there what I would like, just walk around the place, take a film. And
Yeah.
I think come on, Bruce, sorry, Bruce.
You got off on a tangent here. Do you have any questions or anything that we should be
Yeah, well,
answering?
let's go to questions.
All right, let's see. Okay, we kind of touched on this earlier. I think I heard you guys mention a couple things. I was curious about you guys y'all have written quite a few books, and what is your go-to like original source? Where do you get your information from? Like for these wonderful volumes of Titanic, the Ship Magnificent, Titanic and Photographs. Where do you get your text information from?
I don't know where Daniel went with Titanic and Photographs. The sections that I wrote, Steve and I wrote in there, were basically lifted from TTSN.
Mm-hmm.
But my reference material for those big books was to the original moldy mildew, engineering But in Illinois, where I'm from, Northwestern University has got one hell of an engineering library.
Mhm.
They got all that stuff. I only had to go to one place, spent hours up there going through all those, the shipbuilder, the engineer, the electrician, all those things. And the backbone of that book is all based on those original sources. Then, of course, we have the auction catalog, and the Peskett's notes are mixed in there somewhere. So I always go back as the original. My local librarian, Robert Compton, whenever I would order a lot of things for the International Library to Loan thing that they have there, and it was incredible some of the things I was able to get. I was able to get advertisements and other. I mean, I never turned anything down, but it all had to go back as far as I could to the original material.
Mhm.
I remember I had gotten like a catalog of the Sirocco fans or something to this effect. I remember when it came to the urinals and all that, the company that I don't know if it was Shanks or whatever it was that had bought out Dalton. They had a catalog. Bill knows about this one. Though it was, I think, a little bit earlier than the Olympic. I think it was Mauritania-ish. It didn't make any difference because it was all the same. But, go to those catalogs. There was, and every once in a while, somebody will find a publication that I'd never heard of, like, the Sanitary Engineer magazine. It showed a picture of a vacuum cleaner that would have been on the Titanic, I mean, that was from that vintage. The whole article on the needle baths and so forth. So I went back as far as I could to the original. I don't generally trust anything that anybody else has written that's more modern. I always want to, I like to go back to the original as far as I can. That's my role,
I was wondering about like the bathroom stuff and the bathroom fixtures and stuff. I was like, oh my gosh, where did they find out that stuff? So that's good to know, like catalogs and stuff. Either one of you collect things? Like, do you collect things? My house is full of Titanic stuff, memorabilia, books, anything I can get my hands on that's Titanic stuff, from the tacky to the ridiculous to the rare and like kind of fragile and kind of hard to find things. Do y'all?
I had a piece of skirting board from Olympic, and I don't know, was it C deck, Bruce? I don't know. C62, the stateroom, and I had that, and I didn't think that much of it really. And I said to Clive Palmer, I got a piece of Olympic. Do you want it? And he said, yeah, okay then. So I gave it to him. Somebody in around about 2002, they sent me an email and they said, Mr. Hall. I thought, ooh, Mr. Hall, geez, I'm not that old yet. I've got a piece of steel off the Olympic, and my grandfather used to work for Harland and Wolff, and he's got 2 or 3 pieces, and it was in his garage. I know where it's from because he told me, and he had no reason not to tell me the truth. It's a piece of steel that they took off the Olympic in 1911 after the Hawke collision. Would you like a piece? And I said, thank you very much. And they sent it out to me. And which is, in the end, I used it on the cover of Sam Halpin's book, and which I still have. And every now and then in winter when it gets cold here, I dip it in boiling water and hold it in my hand because I've got arthritis in my left hand, which I hold on to it. I have a piece of wood which somebody had sent me from the Titanic, and from Kevin's saucer. I think he had sent me a few things, but I really don't have anything really of significance to be honest, really. I have the Titanic Ship Magnificent limited edition books. I have 2 copies of it. Tan Stefanos, a good friend of mine, he had something which he'd sent to me, and he said, here, Steve, it'd be really good if perhaps if you put it on inside one of your books. And I put it inside both volume 1s of the limited edition for my children, Luke and Karina. So apart from that, and I've got the watch, which is on the front of Sam Halpin's book. And it's supposed to be from Carpathia, but I don't know. And what I like about it is that I wind the watch up all the time and it's over there. And I sit there and I put it inside next to my ear and I think to myself, because I know that the date of it is 1911 because I pull the watch apart. It tells you what year it was made. And I think to myself in the end, whoever had this watch, they probably wound it up every day and it was making this ticking noise at the time the Titanic hit the iceberg and sank. And that's all I really have. And I don't know what, Bruce has got. I did say to Bruce probably maybe 20 years ago or something like that, it'd be nice to have a model of the Titanic because I can't make models or something. But on the other side of the coin, it just wasn't worth getting Bruce to make it and send it all over here. Probably would have got broken anyway. So, but in the end, I know we've been talking for 2.5 hours here now. So it's quite a long time. I really think in the end that the way to go forward is build another Titanic. Just find someone that's got a few quid. Let's build another one, build it the best we can. We can't get around from the fact that it needs, there's firewalls and there's all these things. We could go into this in a different conversation. You've got to have stairs here and whatever it was. But I think really let's perhaps just build another one. If somebody wants to build another one, I think for me and Bruce, why don't you send us an email and we'll give you a quote. And we're ready to go, mate. And we'll be there quick as that. And we've seen it all, done it all. We know how to build another boat. We've done the Bible of Titanic. We know what it looks like, Titanic in photographs. We know how it sank, Sam Halpin's book. We know how to draw the boat from the artwork book. And we can sell the some books on the ship for the kids, Titanic 101. We know all about the mysteries and there was no fire on it. So really in the end, so we can sell that on
fire.
Oh, the fire's load of bloody cobblers taking all the coal out of it, and then it stopped the ship from sinking earlier because you took all the bloody coal out of it. Listen, if you were there and the bunker's on fire and you're taking the coal out of it, let's throw it all into the furnaces. Let's empty it out. Before the whole ship catches on fire. Listen, you would take the bloody coal out of it, and you'd wheel it to the other side there, and you just use as it go. And the chief engineer, Bell, would say, don't take it all out of there because we'll throw the ship out of balance. I'm not going to bloody alter the bloody balance in the tanks at the bottom. Just take some out of there, some out of there, some out of there. That bloke over there can wheel it into the next boiler room and use some of it in there. Well, what, you're going to turn around and say, what, Titanic didn't sink when it sunk because the coal bunker was empty?
I think y'all could write another book about that.
We could write a book about anything, Joanna.
The coal bunker fire. There you go. All right.
Well,
Do you have any?
Like
Do you have any?
You're going to ask me what I collect. I don't collect any of that stuff. People send me stuff on occasion. I've had pieces of the Olympic here. I've had pieces of Olympic wood. I've had one of the napkin rings, and I've either sold it off. Well, I've sold it off. I don't. I have. I got a bunch of books here. A lot of antique books. My shipbuilding books. When I do see those on occasion, I'll pick them up, even if I don't read them. I have them sitting here. I love these Wonder Book of ships. They have, these came on every so many years. I have a couple of those, but I don't have anything. I don't have any dishes or any silverware or anything like that. Anything I did have is gone. I've had to sell it off. So it was a big hit when the Chinese didn't pay me. So I've had to sell everything I had bought for that project. I sold off, including one hell of a guitar collection, man.
Yeah, well, they owed you a few quid, and then therefore, when you got a few quid, you're going to give me a few quid. We all.
When they give me a few quid, I'll give you a few quid.
Yeah, well, you send some more over. So, as this is all starting to wind down, we started the conversation. We were talking about Titanic.
So,
and we were saying what we thought about Titanic, and does it look absolutely lovely? And we're not going to go which ship looked the best, whether it was the Olympic or the Titanic. Which one looked the best? I don't really know. When I was
See-
growing up and when I was young, there were some things that I looked at and I looked at them and I thought they were lovely. And I thought to myself, so I was born in 1960, the most beautiful plane I ever seen in my life was a Lancaster bomber. Because when I looked at it, it looked like it was purpose-built for what it was. If there was going to be, we're going to travel between the stars and go to Alpha Centauri, there was not going to be the Jupiter 2 and Lost in Space. We were going to go there in the Enterprise. And that was absolutely perfect. Lancaster, Enterprise, what's the best looking ship you've ever seen? The Titanic.
Yes, because the newer ships are just weird.
Well, look, it was everything. So it was beautiful.
So do you all have any future projects planned? Or is there a future project or two that you would like to consider? Because everybody wants more beverage.
Look, I think really it's like anything. Everyone gets disappointed because when you listen, you have a favorite band, and you think to yourself, you know what happened. I mean, me and Bruce are not Paul McCartney and John Lennon, so let's get that right. But I think if you really like Titanic or something, you're going to think, well, who are the go-to authors? Who's wrote the most Titanic books? As in co-authors, it's Steve Hall and Bruce Beveridge and Steve Hall. And it's going to be up to the guys or the people out there. If they want more books, I think me and Bruce are happy to turn around and do a few more for you. And what would I like to do? I think what I would really like to do is do a biography and just turn around and say, me and Bruce, we've done all this. And I think it'd make an interesting read. I think we've touched on it today, what we've done. And I think that would be lovely to do, and that would be lovely to go out on. And if we do the modelling book, where it all started, Titanic Research and Modelling Association, and do a book with art, that would be absolutely lovely too. But I know for a fact that we're never going to be able to catch up with the great George Behe, who's a great mate of mine. And he's put out so many marvelous books. I don't know whether he's listening, George. Love you, babe. I would love to have done as many books as he could and have his knowledge. I will never catch up. And as a co-authorship, maybe me and Bruce might be able to meet the number. But I think really maybe a book, Bruce, at least one, maybe two. So the modelling book and maybe a biography. And anyone's got any questions or suggestions, just send it through. So, and let everyone know, I've got bad sinus and I've got a couple of teeth missing here. So it's a little bit hard for me to talk. Okay. So
You're doing great. You're doing great.
no, it's okay.
Before we wrap things up, we talked about this earlier. Would you guys mind if we have a few viewers join us and ask you questions in person?
Oh, go ahead. Let's
sure.
All right,
let's do it.
We still have some people hanging in with us. So if you guys are watching, I'm gonna post the if you're watching live, I'm gonna post the link in the comment section. So if you want to just click on that, you don't need any kind of code or anything like that. All you have to do is click on the link, and you should be able to enter the waiting room, and I'll let you in. I just have to remind you to try to keep it clean, keep your clothes on. Y'all laugh, but
no, that's all right.
But no, most everybody's pretty cool. But if you want to pop in, we'll take about 5 minutes or so, and you guys can ask Bruce and Steve a question live on Zoom. So the link is.
I'm not going to touch it, Joanne, at the moment because last time I logged myself out. So if there's a question there, just read it out.
All right, we've got Terry Bay entering. Terry's a good friend of ours.
Hi, Terry.
Oh, Terry.
Here she comes.
Oh,
No tell Terry.
Hey, how you guys doing?
oh.
Hey,
Hi,
Terry. How are you
Hey,
today?
what's up?
Do you have a question for Bruce or for Steve?
Hey, what's up?
Not much at all, mate, apart from the fact that I'm
An
feeling a
echo
bit
or
tired.
something? Anyway, I have a question.
Go ahead.
How did you two meet and decide to, write books together on the Titanic?
Well, we met on a message board. We met on the Titanic Research and Modeling Association website. And as we started to communicate over this switch thing privately, first on the message board and then privately. And then Steve came out and said to me, he goes, I have this manuscript, which I've written. And I wondered if I was, not sure what I'm going to do with it. You want to check it through for any inaccuracies or fix it and change it? Now let's see if we can get it published. And that's how it happened. So it's all started with the TRMA, as we call it.
Terry,
Yeah,
to go back and to look at it, and mate, we're going back quite many years here. I originally got drawn into the switch theory, and I was thinking at one stage it was, yeah, they did do it, and I went on to the different message boards, which about 1997, 98, and I was winding everyone up, including Bruce. And I was thinking to myself, they've done it. And when I knew they didn't do it, but then I just sort of got involved with it. And then I got involved with a good mate of mine, Daniel Butler. So some people might know his name.
yeah, I know.
Daniel. Do you know Daniel? So
Yeah.
he's a very good friend of mine. And I
Okay.
tell you what, if you meet Daniel in person, he's a different person. He's a lovely guy. But that's how it started, Terry. And I had originally started on the Switch book. And by the time Bruce come involved with it, I said, I don't believe it anymore. And he said, Steve, I don't believe it anymore. I'll alter the manuscript that you sent me, and let's make a book out of it. We could get no publisher, so it was self-published. And that was our first book.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
What would make you believe it in the first place?
Well, that's a big question, because really in the end, I was thinking for about probably 5 minutes that they actually did do it. Because when I looked at the Olympic and the Titanic, they were, they look exactly the same. And if you didn't have all the information that we had today,
Right.
It was possible to believe in the end that it was, oh, I don't know. Look, bottom line is, how do you keep 10,000 Irishmen quiet? I mean,
Not exactly. I mean,
how do you keep quiet?
the Titanic's, I think it's the aid deck. The aid deck on the Titanic is cut.
Oh,
It's not open. The one the one that's totally open is the Olympic. It's like a dead giveaway.
So many differences. Now, I can tell you about Irishmen because my mother was from Denmark, and mother's mother and whatever it was is from Ireland in a place called Dundalk. And there's a place there, a distillery called, I can't remember what it's called, and they make Irish whiskey. And going back in our family, they used to own the whiskey distillery.
Oh.
And therefore, then I know what Irish people are like, and I know what I'm like too. And you can't shut Irish people up. They will tell you exactly what they think.
Yep.
And there's no way in the world.
I have
you
a
keep
little bit of
10,000
Irish.
people quiet.
Let me just say this about the differences in the two ships. You would be surprised. The people that are pro-conspiracy have every excuse you could think of.
Oh, I bet.
for
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it's incredible. If here's one of the big ones, and I think it was asked of Robin Gardner at some point. How do you explain that all these pieces of wood that came off the Olympic all say 400 on the back side? And oh, well, after the post-war refit, they took all the 401 paneling off and replaced it with the 400 panel. It's like it's endless.
Okay, our friend. Go
I
ahead.
mean, 401 is right on the Titanic's propeller blade.
It's all over,
Oh,
Terry.
They'll say,
No, it's all over.
they used parts on both ships. It's endless.
It's endless. Yeah.
No, that look, it doesn't work. And I just remembered our family with the Irish distillery, and it was in Kilbeggan. and they own a distillery there, Kilbeggan, which is I'm related to. So no wonder I like whiskey. And I really think when it comes to the switch conspiracy, what people would do with the switch conspiracy, they would say, oh, well, here's 401. And they would say it was on the propeller of Titanic. And they say, oh, well, they used the spares for the Olympic. That's a load of bloody rot. Because really, in the end, you've got to change all the propellers on the port and the starboard side. And the propellers were different. They had different sort of sizes that they had for the Olympic and the Titanic. You just couldn't go put on screwing on.
I know.
All right, so we do have a question from Cody Reinhardt. He said,
Thank you.
question for Bruce. He said, have you researched any Great Lakes shipwrecks?
The Eastland.
The Eastland.
My great-grandfather, my grandparents and my great-grandfather retired from Western Electric. And thank the Lord that my great-grandfather was not on the Eastland on that day. Otherwise, I may not be here. So I did do some research into the Eastland, but that's been about it.
I just want to mention again that the link is out in the comment section. If anybody else is watching live and wants to join us, we'll keep it open for just a few more minutes before we wrap things up. I've had a few people mention that I should speak to my club about the Eastland. There are so many really interesting shipwrecks that I'd like to cover with them. And, I only have a few club dates. Like I think we meet every other week. So I'm trying to be really selective with what wrecks we cover. And I have a few guest speakers, coming in via Zoom to speak to them. I have Bill Willard and I have Jennifer Saletti, and I've already had Dave Gallo. I think I've got Tom Linsky coming in to speak to them, but I don't know anybody that's actually, that really knows anything about the Eastland. So maybe you could talk to my little club about that, because that would be really interesting.
Yes.
To get them really well versed in different wrecks all over the world, not just Titanic. I know about Titanic, but we're talking about Titanic, Britannic, Lusitania, just all different kinds of wrecks. And I really did want to cover a Great Lakes kind of wreck. So
Yes.
Tom Linsky, part-time explorer.
Yes.
Keep up
The
the
Eastland
good
was
work,
loaded
Tom.
off.
You're doing great videos, mate. Great videos, mate. Keep it up.
So that's the Eastlands is as far as I've gone. I do have interest in Edmund Fitzgerald, obviously, and I love Gordon Lightfoot.
Gordon Lightfoot, yes.
And Fitzgerald, that's a very interesting wreck. I got some books on that one for my club. I bought some secondhand books so they could read about it at least.
Yes, yeah, the Eastland, but those are the only two that I could think of that were anything of any. Of course, the Eastland wasn't really it turned over on its side, but they ended up floating it back up, and they used it for many years after that under a different name. That's a very sad wreck, and very, very sad. And I have a postcard collection of those. You can find those postcards. There's something I collect.
You
right?
do collect something. There you go. I got a Lusitania postcard not that long ago off of eBay. Again, I'm trying to get some things to share with my students. $7.99, a postcard from the early 1900s. I mean, it's original. It's very nice. It was shocked. I like.
Yeah. Why are you there, Joanne?
Huh?
Can you ask Terry?
Mm-hmm.
Seems a real nice person. Any ideas for a book for me or Bruce?
Terry, you heard that. She's still watching. Any idea?
Anything? What do you think? Anything, mate? You want?
She has a question for you guys. Oh, no, wait a minute. Hold on. Wait a minute. I saw. Oh, no, wait a minute. My friend Nigel Bryant
I
said.
know, Brian Nigel.
Nigel, he's one of my admins for Titanic Reflections. What colors do you think that the first class smoking room chairs were?
I thought they were green or red. What color, Bruce?
Is
That's
that in the
one
book?
for Daniel. I don't remember. Were they not? I don't know. Whatever it says in the book.
I was like, is that in the book?
Yeah, whatever
Well,
it says
didn't
in
I say-
TTSM. Right.
Well, didn't I just say? I just said to you, Joanne, didn't I? You were just going down from Marlboro Red, weren't you?
I don't
And
know.
a high ball.
Yeah,
We'll
that's
take
one
a
of those
photo when
questions
you're there.
people don't know. I don't.
Take a
Daniel
photo.
knows what's behind
Smoking
that.
room chairs.
Yeah.
I don't
Page
know.
page
I
You'll have to look
1000.
that one up later.
Believes it was this color, but that's what it was, the going consensus. Yeah. That's one reason why I had to read that
I
stuff
think it
through.
was red, Bruce. Red, Morocco
Yes.
red.
Morocco red.
I don't know, Joanne, you were going to take your iPhone down there and take a photo, weren't you, in the smoking room?
Yes. Someday when I visit the real Titanic and I travel back in time, I will find that out for you.
Well, will you get onto the TARDIS and Doctor Who?
Okay. Terry, he said, do you have any book ideas for them? You can get back to us anytime.
Send me a message.
All
Long as when you mention the authors, it's not et al.
Exactly. Get me in trouble. All right. Anyway, guys, I think we're pretty.
No other questions?
We're probably gonna wrap things up. It's 11:15 p.m. here on a Saturday night. But this has been great fun. I really enjoyed this, and I cannot thank you both enough.
That's all right, mate. Lovely.
Just a lot of fun. I've learned so much. I really have. I hope our viewers have enjoyed it. The live viewers, and again, this is gonna air in the recorded version here on Facebook and on the YouTube channel. I just want to again say this is a fantastic book. If you don't already have RMS Titanic and 50 Objects, go get it.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you very much, Joanne.
So many thanks to Bruce and Steve and to White Star Memories for their contribution as well to this fantastic book. And Bruce and Steve, thank you so much for joining me tonight for episode number 6 of Deep Conversations.
My pleasure. Thank you
Hopefully
very
it won't
much.
be another year before I do another episode.
No, that's all right then. So I hope you enjoyed us talking, and
Right.
it's nice to, I don't know, nice to see Bruce, nice to see you and everyone who dropped in. Thank you very much, and thank you
for having
everyone
me.
for buying our books.
Having us.
And thank you to my viewers, to our viewers. And hopefully we'll see you again soon. Thanks so much, everybody. Have a nice evening.
Take care, everyone. Good night,
Thank
mate.
you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you for being here. Good night. Bye-bye. Bye.
Good night.